We are recording.
Cool.
And so, it's been some time since we spoke last. Was it about 6 months ago or something?
It feels like it was yesterday, man, right here in this spot. It's very eerie
Hmm.
how time speeds up as we age, and I
Yeah.
noticed it early.
Yeah. Um, and so, um, yeah, I've took time out to finish this book, and I work on it every day. And it gets more and more expansive. It gets more and more deep and complex, and it's an incredible journey. In that, what is actually happening now is I'm not writing a book. The book is writing me because everything
Yes.
I come to write, the book is asking me, "Is that what you want to put? Is
Well,
that what you
as
really?" Sorry.
Jung said, humans don't have ideas. Ideas have humans, right?
Yeah, and so I feel very, very strongly, which I have done for many years now, that spirit is using the human being to gather up information and
Of itself, yes.
communicate, share, because of itself, yeah, because it's a self-analytical, self-simulating experience, and there's lots of things it doesn't know about itself, of course, because
Yes.
it's in the learning process. And so what it's done, it's separated itself into gazillions of shards, all life forms in the cosmos.
We
Uh,
neurotransmitters, our voices, the synapse
yeah.
between us.
And
Yeah.
so there's all different sorts of levels of sentience, consciousness, and intelligence, which is the hive mind of God. And many, many animals are, well, all animals are paying into that. Whether we have the intelligence to be able to see that, that's another thing. But now what happens with
Oh,
me
yeah, yeah.
is when I'm looking at the world, I can see it happening all the time. I can see it
Now I can
happening with
too.
all different life forms and how it's creating something new, and it's experiencing and it's showing consciousness what it is, what its potential can be, and it's manifesting that. So now when I'm supposedly writing this book, the book is in actual fact writing me, because I've gone through all of the experience that I had, and I put that down, which was straightforward. It was just remembering, and there
Mhm.
wasn't too much that I needed to
That's what I
question.
did.
Sorry.
Weird. I've been doing that too, chronicling my life, and like in Gulag Archipelago, everywhere I could have gone wrong.
Right. Yeah.
It reveals a lot.
Everywhere you could have gone wrong. Oh man, don't go down that road.
Oh no, it's been no taking responsibility for every little thing, and then you begin to realize everybody's complicit
Oh
if
yeah,
something really bad happens.
yeah,
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 it's
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
interconnectedness of all things is just marvelous. And as one of the Stoics said, as you just said, like as your island of knowledge grows, so too does the shoreline of ignorance. And I imagine that book is going to continue to write itself for quite some time.
Forever, forever,
Yeah.
as long as I am kicking. And so therefore, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is, where do I actually finish it now? Because
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not finished. It won't be finished until I'm finished. And so because now, a 400-page book is
Oh
about
yeah. It's time to make part
that's
one. Yes.
that's pretty intimidating for anyone to, unless they're prolific readers, to want to have a go at. People are much more happy, with books a third of that dimension, something
I've
they
read
can
like
get
a
through in a couple of days.
I've read a fantasy series. They're all 1,500 pages, and there's 10 of them.
Right.
And yeah, a 400 page book being intimidating to people nowadays is just another indicator of how far we've fucking fallen.
Yeah, well, I mean, for good reason, to be fair, because
Oh yeah,
it takes a lot of time. And where do we find this time? Because reading is a privilege that the vast
it
majority
is.
of us don't have the time for. And
Mhm.
that's the thing, most people, they'll have an hour maybe each day to do a little bit of
Yep.
YouTubing, catch up on their emails before they're back again at the wheel. Now, In these past
Yeah.
14 years since I've emancipated myself from my vocation, I will never say slavery because it was always self-driven, but I can't imagine now how I would ever engage myself in some form of vocation
Yeah.
which constitutes a minimum of 8 hours a day. I find it absolutely unimaginable because my
I
day
think though,
is chock-a-blocked with catering for what I'm catering for, and it's not really a great deal.
I think you'd like this place though. I think you'd be uniquely suited to it. I work alone in silence for 8 hours. Lots
Right.
of contemplation, lots of writing. I get things done quick, and it's quiet. And the more I read and the more I stay in stillness, the less retarded I am by looking at one of these.
Looking at one of what?
Yeah.
Oh, one of the
Smart.
computers.
Yeah.
Yes, well, of course, spending time in contemplation, reading or out in nature, meditating, and all these sort of things. Even, when I work out, invariably I'm in a meditation. I don't engage with anybody. I don't count what I'm doing. I don't quantify what I'm doing. The body just does what it
Interesting.
feels like it wants to, and I'm
That's how I do it.
really,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I'm
wouldn't even
not
know how much
there.
I'm picking up.
I'm not. Oh, look at my muscles. Oh, look how big I'm getting. Oh, look how
No, I don't
I'm
care
not
about the
there.
outside estimation of
I've been
people.
doing it for
Like,
so long. It's just something the body does, and the mind has to come with the body, of course. Now, the body
yeah, oh
wants
yeah.
you to walk up or cycle up to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, and the mind goes with it. But when the mind goes with it, the mind isn't with it, so to speak. The mind is elsewhere. The mind's in the
Yeah, you want to keep the
meditation.
static of the body off of the pressures of the mind. You don't want
Yeah,
this
yeah,
shit interfering with this.
they're not connected. I mean, the body isn't influencing the mind. They work completely in isolation of one another. Um,
Unless there's a profound like discordance within the body, like it's distracting, right? And that's
yeah,
the static I speak
unless
of.
you've got
You don't
pain
want
which
any of that.
brings you back, you know.
Yeah.
But my level of pain is always been pretty high, and so I can put myself under a lot of duress. But that
Yeah,
won't.
same.
That when you see people in the gym and they're doing a little bit, and then because it's hurting, I'm like, my God, what is wrong with you people? That the slightest little bit of pain perturbs them.
Oh, I know pain. And that's why vitamins have to be like jelly beans and shit and gummy bears now,
Yeah,
right? And like that the pain is why you're there. It's not a chore, it's a privilege to use your body. Like
yeah, to
be
experience pain. Damn it,
yeah.
it's a
And that's how
privilege.
I can pick up like 600 fucking pounds and you can't, because there's a little bit of pain involved.
Yeah.
So
it's that event horizon, like into a black hole. It's something that you've got to go over if you're going to be, having a level of experience or insight. And so for me, the pain is never been an issue. I've never even considered it to be a pain. In actual fact, it's more like a pleasure. It's kind of like a
yeah.
sadomasochism thing because when the body
Yep.
really under duress, it's very ecstatic. And I
We
wrote,
talked about that.
sorry.
We talked about that last time. It's funny you say ecstatic. That's what
Well,
Odin
you
means
see,
is
I write a good portion in the book about my exercise and how that takes me closer to God. Because what happens is when you've got a very, very highly tuned body, which mine isn't these days like it was before, because before I was able-bodied enough to do a vast amount of cardiovascular, really, really pushing the body to its maximum with karate training, running, and all that different sorts of stuff. But now
yeah,
my pulse
jujitsu and
level,
fighting here with me.
my pulse is still 60 per minute, and so
Jesus.
it's very, very low. And I cycle, of course, and I push myself cycle. But before, I used to be really quite fanatical about it because competing on a world class with full contact karate, I obviously felt it necessary to do that. But when you do that, you get into a level of consciousness which the universe, the cosmos, God designed the human body to be in. And so
We are
then
meant
when
for
we
meaningful struggle. We are meant for it.
Yes, exactly. A meaningful struggle. Because then, when you equate that to the hunter gatherer, when the human being was at the most highly tuned, and you see, look, picture this.
Oh no, they were stupid. They didn't have computers.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone into another dimension now when I'm out in nature, and I see things. Maybe we'll get into this conversation, but it's in the book.
The hyper awareness is there now
The
with me
hyper
again. I see it.
awareness, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
And,
like
and, and so the ancients, you see, they were super, super hyper aware into everything natural.
in the
And their
mythic
body,
imagination.
they had a unison to it. And then when they were
Yeah.
running after an animal, when they were in the heat of a kill, when it was threatening because they were fighting potentially dangerous predators, when all that's going on, you enter into the zone. Sports people call it the
The Odinic
zone.
impulse, the
Sorry?
inspired ecstatic fury.
Yeah,
That's
the
what. Yeah,
sports people call
yeah.
it the zone, but it's exactly the same as when you are experiencing the ecstatic nature of a body which is expressing itself exactly
And
how.
untethered from all that bullshit. It's just free to do its thing. You're in that ultimate of flow states. And that's where the Greeks believed that is where Athena is. That perfect spear throw, that act that is just flawless and godlike,
Right,
right?
and then
That type of
when you
yeah.
are out in the natural environment and you can run, swim, climb, and you do all these things, and there's no ill effect on your body, then what
Yeah,
is left? All that's left is ecstatic through the feeling of
exactly. This
ecstasy.
is so weird, Aaron. Every time you fucking do this to me, I'm like, even though we haven't talked in a while, and every goddamn time you surprise me with something I've been thinking about, and and it's so cool that you're speaking of this because this is something I've been deeply into for 25 years now,
Right.
and in the pursuit of this, and it came through the oddest of places in far right extreme politics. So I've probably been on a watch list for a hell of a long time, but it's led me on a crazy adventure that I've really enjoyed. And the interconnectedness of all things and the perennialist outlook on all these paths up this one mountain. And you're clearly a seeker of such things. And you can view it from a top down, higher faculty, seated consciousness in a holistic manner rather than the postmodernist, reductionist, disgusting, dismantle everything and analyze it to absurdity thing.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean, the postmodernist, what can you say? Ethos. Some of which I'm in agreement with because
yeah, yeah.
it states that nothing is fundamental. Everything, when you look at it, it slips through your fingers because nothing is anything like we perceive it. And so, but the thing is, I mean, the postmodernist philosophy is a philosophy, and when people try to practicalize it, that's when we get into many issues because you can't practicalize a physical program because
No.
the whole premise of this physical illusion that is a physical illusory program, and so you cannot apply that level of spiritual etheric philosophy to the program because then it breaks down. We need to adhere to the program. So that's what the
Well,
downfall of postmodernism is.
yeah, and
When
how would you achieve personal gnosis and perceive it of any sort unless it was through a biological catalyst, as we are biological beings?
Yeah,
So to just say it's just chemicals, those are the types of people I just say, fuck off because you're obviously never going to get it.
yeah,
It's just this.
no, there's
You're
nothing
just
that's just
retarded.
anything. And so, in my book, then, with all of the things that I'm being confronted with, and what I've said in the book, sometimes I come to the computer and it's kind of like, okay, I don't know what on earth I'm supposed to be doing here. I don't even know why I'm doing here. In actual fact, I'm not here. It's not me. There's something else. And you just get into a massive existential conundrum because
Yeah.
whatever avenue you go down, it all ends up in the abyss. And it's like, the old Nietzsche thing,
Oh,
you
yes.
stare into the abyss and then the abyss will stare back at you. But what is the
I
abyss?
am the goddamn abyss. You know, and
We
that's
are the
the
abyss.
tangential thing. Yeah,
That everything comes out of the abyss. Everything pertains to the abyss. It is the
that's
abyss.
it. That is again, Odin and his progenitors sprang from the gap, this tapped the abyss of untapped magical potential, and
Yes.
thus chaos was born, and he rendered order from it,
Yeah, and
so we could live.
so then I think what we'll find is with all of these ancient mythologies and religions that they all start from the premise of something coming out of nothing. Now, I've recently
Yep.
been researching the Big Bang, and in very recent
Oh, and it,
times, I think it was 2012 or something like that. The scientists have discovered that, in actual fact, something can come out of nothing, which makes the Big Bang completely feasible because what they've done is through their tests they have absolutely proven as far as they're concerned that under certain circumstances with particles, quantum particles, when you pull them
oh
apart,
boy,
the energy in between creates other particles. And so when you pull them apart, it's like Chinese dolls. When you take one out, the other, you keep getting more and more and more pop into existence, and it expands because what you've got doesn't go away; it just gets added to. And so that blew my mind because
Pareto
I for many,
distribution.
sorry.
Yeah, the Pareto distribution, the exponential increase, the positive feedback loops, quantum entanglement, all this shit going down. That I creeped out Einstein. You know, the two particles, and no matter the distance, could move without lag
Yeah.
together. Like what?
And so then when we have the inflation hypothesis, everything's expanding and ultimately it's going to be contracting and it's all going to be going back into the box. Well,
And he'll do it again and
this
again.
Big Bang was first speculated, hypothesized about in the 1200s. There's been lots of other variants, philosophical, religious, and even bordering on science as we come up towards the 1800s. Throughout all these years, it has been an innate human consciousness experience that we came out of nothing because deep down in our collective unconsciousness we know that we're not anything. We and this is why everybody in this fabrication is out of sorts with themselves. They are never 100% completely content because there always has to be something which they aren't doing here to give rise to that contentment, and that is to get back into the womb, to get back into the abyss, to get back into the nothingness from whence we came, because we know
Mm-hmm.
intuitively, instinctively that we are not real.
And you can go one of two ways with that. Like you could run into it and find, and within it, if you're in a really dark place, that's the blackening of the alchemical process. That's where you find the source of the white. Or you can go in the other direction, away from the abyss, if you can, if you have a good reason to. And that's again a whole nother can of worms. But I do believe in like Nietzsche's concept of the eternal recurrence. It's just when infinite regress enters the pictures when I get fucked up, and that's just beyond our pay grade. So that's been haunting me since I was an 8-year-old. Like, who created God then, and who created that, and who created that? That's just not for us to understand. So don't even go down that road, folks. If anybody listens, just
But
don't bother.
yeah, well, I don't know. You see, this is where I differ from lots of people
Mhm.
because I have an innate ability to be able to complicate things, but then always bring it back to the absolute most simple, the Occam's razor of all hypotheses.
Yeah, the ability to correlate an abstract thing and articulate it to somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, because you see, look, what many philosophers have done, and spiritualists over the years, they have looked at what they are, and people like Rene Descartes, he stopped short of where the Buddhists derive or come from. Now, you see, Rene Descartes said that because he thought that's what gave him the impression that he actually was in existence because he had thoughts. But then you see the Buddhists say, well, no, you were wrong, Descartes, because when you don't have any thoughts, when you are actually in the abyss, that's when you know you are. You don't have to think about
Yeah,
it
and
because you have
Satori, yeah.
words, thoughts. No, no, no. That's not the fundamental. You go one stage further. You go into the deepest of meditations where nothing exists. You are actually in the abyss. And when
Yep.
you open your eyes, your consciousness comes back online, you collapse the wave function of quantum theory in that the cosmos is conscious, light is conscious. It operates in a free for all when it's not been observed, but as soon as it's observed,
Oh,
it has to come
that's the
into.
weird one. Like when the particles, the tiny ones, and they
Yeah,
know that you're looking at them.
yeah,
Like that blew my mind as a kid watching Brian Greene DVDs, man.
yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, we could, go down all different sorts of cognitive avenues to explain why that is. But
Mhm.
I come back to the simplest one and I go, well,
Yeah.
without that, it doesn't work. Just without that,
Yeah.
sometimes we just accept things have to be the way they are. Otherwise, things
Yeah.
can't manifest out of it.
But there's no context, nothing makes sense, and
Yeah,
we wouldn't be able to
otherwise
do
we just
anything.
try and break this down, we break that down, we break everything else down. Now, on my journey, of course, I've been doing this breaking down to many, many things. And I came to an impasse with things like, what is existence, what is love, what is time, because these things, there is no breaking down, because every single road
No.
leads you into the abyss. It leads you into madness, first and foremost, until you have to give up to save yourself, and you then just reside in the nothingness and you go, oh, thank God for the nothingness. And that's when you
Yes.
know that that's the only thing that exists and everything comes out of it. And therefore then when we look at the Big Bang, that makes it feasible again. Everything comes out of nothing.
The weird thing about the Big Bang, though, is like, how the fuck is everything continuing to accelerate? And at an exponential rate too. That kind of doesn't make sense. And there's this multiversal, if quantum physics is to be believed, and they've discovered what they believe to be the sufficient amount of particles to make it happen in this like layered universe, and the it collapsing into itself in certain spots. Well, that could create a big bang to big ass whatever the fuck they think are chunks of this matter smacking another thing, creating a bang and a contraction. Once everything cools down, it's life, death, rebirth. The cycle within the micro is outside in the macro too, right? And nothing is exempt and nothing is unnatural. This is how it works, and it just is. Do with it what you will.
Yes. And so when we arrive at a certain place which we're comfortable with, then we can say, well, eureka, we found it. You see, when we listen to intellectuals, and I listen to a great number of varying coming from all walks of life, and I'm very familiar with Brian Greene, and all different sorts of physicists, Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Yeah.
and then Jim
Oh,
Gates.
Tyson,
Um,
fucking idiot.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
whatever we think about these people, but Tyson, the thing is about him. There's one thing that he states, which I am an adherent of, and he says, I am still waiting for someone to convince me that we're not in a simulation. So even though he is a scientist, he's coming from a philosophical perspective. Go
It is.
figure.
It's always a faith-based statement. I think with a lot of atheistic types, I think when they think that they go into nothing but an oblivion and a sleep, I think they're wishful thinking. I think that's their death coping mechanism because there could be something worse
Something worse
than oblivion. That I think that they may be wishful thinking. Perhaps there is something malevolent out there,
yeah, okay. You see,
but a simulation.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, if but even that's not fundamental, because even if we enter into a realm like hell, that isn't fundamental. It's just another arena of consciousness to be aware of.
Yeah,
Nothing can last
that's another thing.
eternally, and
That's one thing I
so
think about
sorry.
is. So the universe, we probably come to a consensus at the bare of the first principles of what constitutes the cosmos. I believe. I don't think we'd find any like disconnect. But it begs the question to me, if it can be conceived of, if it can be thought of, especially during a psychedelic experience, that level of horror, if you encounter that, is it a possibility that it is out there? I
Well,
hope not.
yeah, I would say, is it a possibility that it is in here?
Yeah,
Because we can't escape consciousness because we are consciousness.
no.
And so everything that goes on within the realms of consciousness. So we are
Mhm.
it. And so if
Yeah.
evil is an existence, then we are creating it. And so then we have to ask the question, is that what you want to create?
No, 'cause you have to face in the shittiest of the shit, when you're in hell, and we know this, we have context. We've been there. That's what makes boring normal days great. Um, but you need that in order to see it. And I see it now. Like you can see it in people, identify it
Yeah.
and remove it.
I think what happens is when we end up in some sort of a hell, and we think that it's a place somewhere, maybe in the abstract.
Yeah. It's
The,
right here if you try easy enough.
well, yeah, because look, if we look at any notion of hell in the Bible, then the hell. The notion of hell derives out of failings of ideally what you're supposed to be as a human being. Now,
Hmm.
if in this hypothesis, this simulation, in God's dream, then ideally, his creation, the simulation's creation, is order. If we step outside of order, we end up in chaos, and chaos could be deemed to be hell. So, if we're not doing all the right things which are conducive to a social environment, then the environment will start to attack us. And then when we are attacked,
Exactly.
yeah,
And that's what Odin does, because he will bear any hatred, and if you'll see this throughout the myths, any shame, because he like learns feminine ergi magic from Freya, a female. It's
right.
supposed to be that domain, and he doesn't care, and he will take on any like he'll do any sin, he'll commit evil in order to maintain order within the world, and he doesn't just keep it for himself; he gives it to us. And like when he drops the meat of poetry upon the earth, when he, reacquires it from the giantess in the Kundalini-esque myth, where he ascends the mountain as a serpent and leaves as an eagle. And it's remarkable how the hell did they know that stuff back then? Like,
Yeah, how did they know it? Because they were in a situation whereby their minds were open to the Akasha, because
yeah.
they were more still. These days, our minds are polluted, that they have been
Insurance, bills,
infiltrated.
work.
They have been busied, and they have been numbed, and they have been programmed very badly. But in the old days,
Yeah.
there was no programming, and we operated entirely naturally in relation to what we were and what we perceived. And then
And their
we,
leisure time was spent doing what we're doing,
in what
you
times?
know? In their actual leisure time they earned, they had a
Yeah,
lot of it. They did stuff like this and conceived of great things and wrote them down. And we are
yeah.
luckily available, we can read them, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so there's so many amazing things pertaining to what we are, and so this book that I'm writing and will be writing for the rest of my life, editions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for as long as I live, because I'm discovering more and more about what it is to be. I'm being guided more about that which is, and I'm the piggy in the middle, the human being. I'm convinced it has been created as an in between to do all the things that consciousness cannot do, not being physical. And I don't think we are physical to the ultimate explanation of what physical is. There is a notion of physicality, and
Mm.
so You see, when we look at the quantum world, and the quantum
Oh
world tells
yeah.
us that there's
Who
nothing
knows what's
physical.
passing through us right now, man?
Yeah, but the thing is that there is something which is exceedingly convincing, and so it's that exceedingly convincing notion of physicality which then makes physical reality real. You see, because
Mhm.
what makes anything real is our consciousness and our perceiving of it. Because if we can't
And a
perceive
consensus,
something,
yeah.
then we can't know it to be real.
No.
You know,
And we need to have a perceived and a perceiver, and we need to have some sort of consensus, or there's language fails, and there's no means of even speaking.
yeah, so
And
when we
yeah,
have a perceiver, then we have something which is real, in as much that there's meaning to it. So let's say that real is conjoined with meaning, because real, if you inspect what real is supposed to be, then it falls through our fingers. If you say, well,
because language
meaning,
fails.
yeah,
Invariably, you hit that wall where
yeah, because
language fails.
meaning is something. So really, something that's abstract. Is something that
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's a notion that we're supposed to be inside, or it's outside of us, and we can't pinpoint it. But if you say meaning, we vitally feel meaning. We
And
intuit
people like
meaning.
who have like you and I who've been to certain places, in those ineffable places where language fails, you can kind of tell. Like you Oh, you know too, right? It's like it's one of those types of wink and nudge things, like, "Oh, yeah, I get it," but we can't say it in words. It's just
No,
not something you can do.
yeah, you can't say it. So many times in my book, I'm juggling between um, the rational world and the intuitive world. And when I was deeply involved in attempting to discover the nature of the Christian God, I came to an impasse with my logic. And I had reasoned that it is unreasonable to try to know the mind of God from a
Yeah.
rational, human, logical
And try to
perspective.
foist human failures
Yeah,
upon it.
yeah,
Hubris, worthy of damnation, I would
exactly,
imagine. Like,
exactly.
get fucked. And he's just one of many of the pantheon of the Jebusites, and he was a volcano demon of war because they evolved in a landscape of scarcity, and they sacrificed their firstborns to him. And there's
Right.
a theory that that's where circumcision came from because the Israelites were in such conflict all the goddamn time that they couldn't afford to lose soldiers, so circumcision. And so what happens is Yahweh then becomes a dick gobbling volcano demon when you really think about it.
Why did what purpose did circumcision
They
give?
couldn't they couldn't just toss the whole baby out into the volcano
Oh,
because they were
okay.
in constant
So yeah,
warfare.
they made a burnt sacrifice of the foreskin.
Yeah. So the Yahweh likes that's pretty gross. That's what you want to worship as from a monotheistic perspective, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that bizarre? When you've got a god that demands blood sacrifice, and
And
so,
the perversion of the word sacrifice, which pisses me off,
well,
because it's immolation. What Hebrews do, what we did, our ancestors did, was to make sacred, to set aside. It was not in the realm of the profane anymore. It was
yeah,
treated special.
yeah.
You know,
But then when we look
that's what it
at
means.
the sacrifice, so what it means philosophically, we can then transfer that to the literal version of the Bible, because there's nothing in the Bible which is supposed to be taken literally. It's all allegory for the
And that's why I
simple-minded
like
person. And
that's
so
why I like
when
the
there's
Bhagavad Gita though.
sorry.
The Gita you can take literally because everything about it is philosophical in nature.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
it's this text I
So
like. Yeah.
it's all premised on philosophy, and I say that the Bible is the first attempt at human psychology. It's cognitive behavioral therapy for the
Oh,
masses.
I thought that's what Stoicism is. That's because that's what CBT is. I mean, David Burns says his whole development of Team CBT was out of the teachings of Epictetus and Seneca.
Out of the teachings of what?
Seneca, one of the Stoics, and it's clinically applied Stoicism.
Yeah, but how does cognitive behavioral therapy come into their world when it wasn't even invented? Then that concept.
Oh, in the world of the Stoics?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't. It was just called Stoicism.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is that I'm not grasping your point here. Stoicism, is to sort of be minimalistic and to
No,
accept
it's essentially the process of feeling emotions but not reacting to them, much akin to
accept
any other spiritual tradition.
accepting that
Yeah,
you feel this,
resignate.
you feel
Yeah,
that, and stop
yeah, but you
biting
don't
your
let.
tongue
You're
out
the
and all that
master of your
sort of
domain
shit.
in your mind. Don't let people occupy. Don't give people your agency and power. Do not let them occupy large swaths of, territory in your mind.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And I've noticed a lot of people around me tend to do that and harbor resentment for that.
I mean, the Stoics, I think they were the first philosophers. They were the first Socrateans or Platonists and all these other things. Because the Stoics, they were the intellectuals that gathered around what was called a stoa, which was an archway in the marketplace. And so they used to
I didn't know that part.
yeah, they used to sit under the Stoa, and so that's why they're called Stoics. Basically, they were just philosophers,
Plato, though.
chewing the cud. Um,
Plato was the proto-commie, man.
Proto-commie.
He's the origin. Yeah, he was the origin of true world philosophy, and thank God for Diogenes, like walking up to his lectures and taking a shit in the amphitheater and crunching on loud ass food, because Plato was a proto-commie with his head up his ass, and true world philosophy may be responsible for more death and suffering than any other conception human beings have ever come up with.
hmm
That this world can be discarded because there's a world of pure forms out there. So fuck this one, right?
Well, I suppose that borders a little bit on postmodernism because Plato reduced everything to ideas, and so that's what
Yep,
postmodernists do.
and
They
how it
reduce
should
everything to
be.
an idea.
And Aristotle looked upon things like a man, like a good person, and said, "What can we do with this? The best we can." You know?
Just turn the heating down. Yes. Okay. Let's bring it back to something more practical to ourselves now. And so, as far as we're concerned, making our way through this illusion of life,
Mhm.
we are um, investigating and experiencing, and we're concluding. And of course, when we conclude at any given time, we have to always bear in mind that. Our conclusion will be usurped by something else. So there's never a point where we ever should say that, eureka, I found anything, because it's just like saying, oh, I found the next step of the stepping stones over the river, which is endless.
It
And
never ends. And
you
thank
know,
God it never ends.
yeah, yeah, but simply because if it did end, then there'd be no purpose to what we're doing here. The whole
Boring.
purpose is self discovery of the cosmos, of consciousness.
And just mystery in general. Who would want to know everything? You know?
Yeah,
I wanted to be a wizard when I grew up. It's always been that way, even though I was a hand egg player here in America. You know? And I played your guys' football too. And but I was a nerd at heart, and I still want to be a wizard when I'm there.
yeah. Well, you still want to be a wizard. I mean, to
I'm trying.
you become a wizard. I mean, I've become a wizard.
You were definitely like Radagast. Radagast the Blue, End of Death. Yeah.
Right. What I'm doing here in my life in my apartment is expressing what I am. And
And thank you for that. That's something that's been extraordinarily difficult for me is change and stuff. Yeah. You're the reason I have these tapestries, man. Um,
isn't that
I
beautiful?
would show you the it is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. I would show you my altar, but that would be a private thing. So I
Right.
don't just show it to anybody.
Yeah. And
Um,
I have these tapestries. There's one in the bathroom. There's
I
one in
have
the
that one behind
bedroom.
you.
Sorry.
You're that one behind you, that tree.
Yeah.
That's what got me started on buying them.
Right. And
As I'm
then
like,
you've
I'm
got this
tired of these
beautiful
fucking
one over
walls, man.
there, which you can just walk through that.
Yeah, there's a really good one. Yeah. And then I got like this guy.
Yeah.
And then yeah, there's more. Just
Yeah.
the all-seeing eye of Sauron of
Your
of Mr.
tapestries,
Barry.
they're kind of like very DMT-esque, where mine are more, they're more like natural, of course.
I've never smoked DMT, which is funny. I mean, I've
Wow.
eaten it. Well, mushrooms are, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you know, on your journey you get round to that, then there will be a whole new cosmos open up to you consciously. And so you see, the difficulty is when I'm expressing now in this book, you see, the whole thing about the book was how I am on a journey becoming closer to God, and I'm discovering as I progress what I feel and intuit God to be at any given time. And I'm looking at all of the options of religion, of science, of philosophy, of spirituality, all these sort of things. I'm looking and I'm seeing what fits with me, what fits with my experience, because there's nothing more abhorrent in my mind than when people are speaking other people's words and they're saying this is this and that's that, and I say to them, well, what's your experience? And they don't have any experience. All they have is
I don't
reading
have
from
faith.
books.
I have personal gnosis. I know,
Yes, that's
right?
right. And
I
so
don't need faith.
this book is about my gnosis. It's about what I can convey as knowledge as much as anyone possibly could.
Yeah, that's what I call the Odinic impulse, and you don't hoard it selfishly, right? You bring it back and you share it to
Yes.
those willing to hear.
Yeah.
And that's what the alchemists would call being stuck in the white. That means you've transcended the burning away of what is bad. You have ascended to the top, right? Oh, supposedly. But that's where a monk that hides himself in an ashram somewhere would do and just never come back. But then the descent of the Red King must occur. And that's where the Philosopher King emerges. The Philosopher's Stone is found. And that's why regal colors are red and purple,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
It's,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
symbolism is there all around us.
these regal colours, you see, there is a beetle which, when you crush it, it gives a purple pigmentation which holds fast to wool, and so that's
I think I've
where,
eaten that shit in American food.
yeah.
These red beetle crush up stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
just like
so
food dye.
there's lots of reasons why, amethyst, is worn on religious people's hands in the ring. The Pope has an amethyst stone because,
I didn't. Oh, I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah, and amethyst is supposed to be the connection to spirit, and I wonder why that is. But like all things, it's multifaceted. But then when I look at the ancient times, well, instead of just wearing white wool and then dirty wool, the rich people who could have thousands and thousands and thousands of these little bugs gathered up by serfs and then crushed up, and then their woolen garments dyed, so it was beautiful and mauve, and nobody outside of the papacy, had these, and so therefore then it became like a holy color because of the circumstances. Because it's like gold; they were done gold and they were done purple
Yeah,
because nobody else has got it. But then looking
yeah.
into different spiritual facets, I discovered that amethyst or mauve is an actual fact a spiritual color for other reasons, which
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And that's why Plato describes Atlantis. One of the more useful things he did. And the block, he said the bricks that were laid were red, black, and white, the
right,
alchemical process. And there's a reason why the National Socialist flag was that color.
yeah.
It's not any contemporary stupid ass reason. It's because Himmler was super into the occult.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing all that stuff is when when you look into it. You see,
And
the thing is also when we do any research as to what is what, we come upon everything. If I'm seeking what any given thing is supposed to be, then we've got a whole entourage of speculations or theories, hypotheses, viewpoints on that thing. And like many things, lots of things paradoxically have at least two. In actual fact, I think all things have at least two truths to them. And so we then
As in,
look at,
like, opposite ends of a paradox, like everything exists in a
yeah,
continuum, and then
everything
there's
ends
a
in a
polarity.
paradox. And so it all comes
Yeah.
back to the one. It's the Ouroboros eating its tail. It's the temperature spectrum. It can't go on infinitely. There has to be parameters to it, and so
Mhm.
it makes perfect, feasible sense to see that it goes round in gradations from the absolute hottest anyone could ever perceive to the absolute
Yep.
coldest. And so this is like all things. And so what I've done and what I'm doing is there's no point in trying to listen to this and that. You see, if we look at even such things as like what is called a theory and what is called an hypothesis, different camps have different meanings.
To a
Philosopher.
layman, to a scientist, yeah, it gets annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, and so scientists will stipulate that hypothesis is X, Y, and Z, and theory is ABC. And then philosophers, that they won't tend to distinguish too much between the two because they're primarily dealing in logic and reason, whereas the scientists, they consider that they're dealing in facts. But in fact, what they're doing is they're all believing in philosophy, they're all believing in religion,
In the
they're all
Church of
believing
Scientism, they're the same way.
yeah, it's all faith. It's all faith based because
And they think they're the sole author of their words and actions, just like every other person thinks that they're not conditioned. You are not special. You're not exempt. You're part of everything else too.
yeah,
Get over it. And for the first part's acceptance, you are walking on conditioned ground, and all you can do is try to condition it for yourself to some degree, so you can shape your own,
yeah, to come to some
destiny, so to
sort
speak.
of self consensus whereby you are happy. Now, I
No,
listen.
that's something I did. I now purpose in the Stoic tradition. I found this very useful because a lot of my problems in the past have come from chasing of euphoria, right? I now during you'll get certain times you'll do breathing exercises, meditative states will bring you in a very euphoric place. And I find it very useful to immediately take that euphoria and say, fuck you, happiness, and go right back to tranquility. Because then there's no yo-yo effect.
Yeah,
I'm the master of my goddamn domain.
yeah,
I'm active and and I find that very helpful.
yeah, because either polarity isn't sustainable. You've always got to come back to
Yes.
the mean.
Thank you.
You've got to end up in the Aristotelian mean.
Even endogenous dopamine release comes with an endogenous dopamine come down.
Yeah, and so I listen to people, chat hosts, holding, anything like Lex Friedman. Are you familiar with Lex Friedman?
His voice annoys me to the degree I can't
Right.
listen to him.
Do you think
Yeah,
Lex
what I don't know what the deal is with him.
Yeah, but I try to override that because the
Yeah,
reason why he's
I try
successful
to.
with a lot of people is because there is behind that a completely boring exterior. There is an intelligence,
Yeah.
and he
Oh,
asks the
yeah,
right
very much so.
questions, and so therefore, he prompts the right response
And we
from.
can't let small. I've noticed that in throughout my life, I've been in a lot of I met a lot of strange people in strange groups, and you'll have people with 99% agreeing on everything, but that little sliver will destroy them. And I just choose not to participate in that, because it's just absurdity. And
The
like
little
where
sliver
Jordan
of what?
Peterson, well, I mean, the 1% disagreement on an ideology, and otherwise completely, people who would get along in harmony. That 1%, if that one person, that one dickhead is a narcissist or neurotic, it can tear the whole thing apart. And I've seen it many, many times. You know, so don't discount like Lex Friedman for his voice, for example, on my part. Because I
Yeah.
may agree with him.
Yes.
And with Jordan Peterson, I find his foisting of dharmic ideas onto the biblical corpus is profoundly annoying, and I would love to debate him on that,
Yeah.
and that will never happen. But otherwise, he's the only mainstream figure talking about Jungian principles, and there's a reason why he's verboten in school.
Yeah, and the thing is with Peterson, because everything is so premised in the biblical corpus, and he more and more has a leaning towards the Jewish fraternity for some reason.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of time for Peterson in the past, but more and more he's becoming more adamant about everything is
the
reverting
notion that the
back
West
to the
came
biblical
from
texts.
the Bible. Well, okay, I'm sorry, sir, but our ancestors beyond that, and now, oh, there's a super cool discovery recently, but our Scythian Aryan ancestors that conquered the world, well, they had a book called the Rig Veda that was established long before that. That was our religious text, and that's what was foundational. Sanskrit's an Indo-European language.
Yes, and all this biblical stuff, it all comes out of other, well-established biblical text, like the Vedas, like anything.
Or Zoroastrianism. Who
Yeah, which
visited
came out of
baby
the
Jesus?
East.
Three magi.
Sorry.
The three magi, where the word
Yeah.
magic comes from, the priestly caste is the Zoroastrians.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah.
to put over emphasis, you see what Peterson does, because he's a psychologist, then he looks for the root of all the problems being solved in biblical corpus, and then he speaks about, Jonah and the whale, and then he speaks about Job and, his conversation with God, and he speaks about Cain and Abel, and all these different sorts of things.
Oh, and that.
And he's
Oh,
equating everything back because what he's doing is he because he's a psychologist and not a philosopher, he needs to
it,
have a root and a foundation in the corporeal world.
and there's a dissonance because he's an evolutionary psychologist too. So there's a profound dissonance there within him. He's trying to resolve it, and it's public. And we can
Right.
see it happening. And it just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think he would be much more appreciated as an intellectual if he could be much more philosophical alongside his psychology. Now, the beautiful thing of someone who hasn't had that level of poison, indoctrination, propaganda, self-induced, inductive and deductive education, because if you are trained psychologists, then you have to have a premise that the human being is real for any of that to work, because you have to have a look for reasons in a so-called reality. But then when you encompass the numinous or the spiritual into that, then
I love you use
the
the word
logic.
numinous.
Yeah, the logic and the reasoning it doesn't have a footing, and so when I'm ever listening to any of these people, I'm always picking from so many different arenas because I haven't been imprisoned by one consensual thought. You see,
Yep.
in this world, the reason why people like Peterson are popular is because they are standard in their delivery. They don't deviate. They don't tell somebody something that throws a spanner in the works. But Peterson is firmly seated in the world being physical and real, and so therefore everything stems from that. And then when the postmodernists, which are philosophers, try to bring their philosophical musings
Bleeds
into the
everywhere.
so-called reality, then it's not working. But you see,
And the AIDS virus doesn't stop there. It spreads throughout every institution without people even realizing it.
yes, it does. And so then what that does is that breaks down all principles. And so Peterson is
No meta narrative, no meaning. Just
yeah. But let's
if you
talk
feel there's
about
no
that.
meaning, start with yourself.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, Julian, because I think I sense that this is where we have a difference in philosophy, because
Okay.
I am very much more of an adherent of postmodernism than I am to the biblical corpus, than I am to the so-called reality of psychology, because my
Okay.
leanings are spiritual and philosophical. They aren't scientific, and they aren't psychological, because the psychology pertains to the fiction of the reality, and I know that there is no reality. So therefore, I'm out there with the postmodernists in believing that absolutely nothing is valid, nothing is real, because it's all perception, it's all projection of the fiction of the human being.
Yeah, but then that comes down to the splitting hairs into infinite nuance of what is real and what is not, and we can
Well,
get
no,
into that
it
quagmire of
doesn't, because nothing's
epistemology.
real. Nothing's real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, yeah, it has to be one or another at that point. I think it's a pretty black and white thing. Yeah, either everything is real or nothing is, or everything is natural or nothing is. Like, it is the natural human proclivity to do synthetic shit and fuck stuff up. Why do you climb that mountain? Because I can. Doesn't make any sense, you know. And but with me, uh, the
It made sense
I
when
just
I
really,
climbed the mountain.
yeah, I know, yeah, yeah, exactly. But someone who doesn't think like we do, who doesn't contemplate things, like what's the pragmatic use, right? Because they're always thinking in terms of that, like what do you gain from it?
Well, what
Well,
what most people would gain from climbing a mountain is a physical satisfaction and
yeah.
personal acclaim, because they can put it on their Facebook and
Look at me. I
I
just
have
need the
climbed a mountain.
validation.
How many of you have done that? Look how cool I am. And all my travels all around the world, I've come upon people that when they go somewhere, and the classic one, I think you remember the video, is when I'm in a zoo and I'm looking at giraffe, and I come upon a girl who is filming the giraffe. She's like this, and then like that, and then like
Oh
something else.
God.
And she's not actually looking at the giraffe. And I said, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "What can you tell me about that giraffe?" And she went, "Whoa."
Uh,
And
the
then she
phone's
said,
supposed to
"Well,
tell me.
it's tall. It's got a long neck, and it's kind of browny, patchy coloured." I said, "Well, is that it?" Um, well, I mean, what do you mean? I will give me more details. Well,
That's funny.
it's got a long face, but you see, the details elude them because they never
Yeah.
honed into the details, because they
Ever.
left the detail collecting to their phone. And
You
the
do
only
you look at the details and then you come back and you collate it, right? And that's why when people ask me, why aren't you taking pictures of your daughters doing this and that, is I'm like, it's because I'm experiencing it and that's what our memory is for. I don't need the damned camera to distract me from the experience I have right now.
there's a lot of
Thank you
truth
very
in that.
much.
But in my life, I've made films of my daughter growing up throughout her life,
Oh,
which are
that's another thing too,
absolutely
and that's
valuable
valid.
now,
Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely agree
because
with
our
that. I
memory is
should show you
fallible.
one. Yeah, it's yeah, but there's certain times where I just don't even consider the phone. I'm just so in the moment with my
Yeah,
children.
to have your
But
phone out all the time, no, it's taking you out
yeah,
of the moment.
there's a
But,
balance. It's
to
as
have
with
your phone
everything.
out once a week,
Yeah.
when the kids are playing in the park, or when you're talking to them, asking them questions about
Over
what
in the
things,
Cotswolds.
yeah, all these sort of things, is
Yeah.
wonderful. Have a collection of that. But if your phone is out every given opportunity, then
Yeah.
you're not there. You are personally not there. And so what you're doing is you think you are there, but all that's there is AI. AI is there because AI is gathering that information.
And those two letters. I've seen them coming since I was a kid, and I watched the Terminator. I'm sure you're familiar with that, like
Mhm.
Skynet, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, guys, it's not supposed to be a roadmap. It's supposed to be a fucking warning. Can we stop going there? We don't need to go there, but we're gonna. It's like, can we make a nuclear bomb? Should we? Oh yeah, okay. Well, let's just do it. Can we make a Jurassic Park and a dinosaur and a nuclear Tyrannosaurus Rex? Well, of course. Why not?
Yeah, but
You know?
you see where I come from, and ultimately, where I'm heading, um, is further and further into the nothingness, because the more I
That's
experience,
the place to be.
sorry.
That's the place to be. That absorption, that
Well,
what do they call it?
you see, if you're in the nothingness, and how it serves me is if somebody. Last night I was listening to, I think it's Jim Bio. He's this dude with huge elephant ears, and he's got his chat show. And yeah, you're familiar with that guy,
No, no. But I can
Bio.
imagine you. I when I see weird people, especially tall ones, I always comes to mind Aaron talking shit to tall people.
Tall
I'm
people,
sorry.
short
Go
people,
ahead.
fat people, thin people, all this sort
Chop
of
them
thing.
down. What's wrong with you, you lurch motherfucker?
Yeah,
Chop
but you
them
see,
up.
this guy, he's saying, look, we all feel this and we all feel that, and we're all afraid of this and we're all afraid of that. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of nothing.
And when people say I'm this phobe, I'm like, I'm not a phobe, faggot. You know, I'm not scared of you. Just don't touch me and stay away from my family.
Yeah, I mean, you know, okay, someone's a faggot. You know, what are they going to do to your
I don't
family?
care.
I mean,
Oh no, I mean I just use crass language, just for fun.
yeah,
But I don't have any like my most loved family member was gay, my uncle.
yeah. But
Like
I
I'm,
think,
and
look,
he said that we're there.
when I'm speaking with Paul and we'll have conversations about any number of things incessantly for 6 or 8 hours every time we meet, never a pause in the conversation. And when he delves into something, I go, well, where are you coming from? And it's kind of like, are
Yeah,
you coming from the fiction of the human being, or are you coming from the reality of the non-reality? That the only thing going on here that is indisputable is consciousness. Are you coming from pure consciousness, or are you coming from the fiction? Because if you're coming from the
a
fiction,
condition.
I need to know, because then I'll engage with you, the fiction, and I can talk about
Exactly.
the fears that the body will experience, and I can speak about insecurities in this, that, and the other. But me as an evolved individual, I come out of all of that, and I'm like, fear about what? Fear about dying. What?
For
I can
what?
never die. Fear about pain. I love pain. You know,
And like me too. You're in your estimation of me. What makes you think I care? Right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Why
it's like,
would you care about anything? You know, but this is
don't
very
let me
close
occupy
to it.
swaths of your mind. Don't foist your, weakness upon me, and therefore you absolve your responsibility and you become a victim, right? That type of attitude. Like no, like but yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
You
Especially
see,
like, yeah,
the thing is with Peterson. I mean, he is right in as much that humanity needs stability. Humanity needs the notion of right and
we
wrong.
need
We,
we
we,
do need one thing that is permanent
we need
as a
structure.
touchstone.
We need something to deem as real. And the reason why we need it so badly is because nothing is real. Because
Exactly.
if things were real, we wouldn't need something to be
We
so
would
real.
need a tether. We need that touchstone. That's why orthopraxic religion is better than orthodoxic. And it doesn't matter what you believe. Your ass shows up to the right. It binds the community. It keeps you in an upward orientation, and everybody's happy. So don't be an asshole. Come join.
Yeah, and so in the Bible, all these illustrations and parables and yeah, so on and so forth are there because they are psychological guides of how to live a comfortable life. Because if you
Yeah.
step outside of those parameters, then you will suffer more pain and you will end up in hell. Because
Yeah,
that's
oh yeah.
all heaven and hell is. Heaven is pure ecstasy, and hell is pain. And
Or
so,
like the yogis say that it's like a being intoxicated but not drunk in that state. That
right.
ecstatic state, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful state to be in, to be intoxicated about everything, and
Oh
that's
hell yeah.
that's where I am. I'm intoxicated with life,
And it seems
because
like you and I get that way, and we're more manic by temperament that way, not by a disorder, just because we're so fucking enthusiastic when we get out and excited about things.
Yeah, I mean, of course, then we have to take into consideration what are we as beings, and temperament comes into it, nature and nurture comes into it, genetics come into it, the spirit
More than people like to
of the cosmos
acknowledge.
comes
Yeah,
into it. There's all different sorts of things which
they're composites.
amalgamate to give us the experience that we're having. Um, and
Because at the
so,
very least, we're a bifurcated thing. Because when you meditate and all those images are being thrown up in your head, what's doing that? Well, not you. You're observing it. So at the very least, you're a composite being of two.
yeah.
Now, we know the consequences of when that lower mind is in the driver's seat. Well, at least I do.
Yeah, you see, the way I look and have looked about so-called negative things in my life, there has always been something positive which derives out of them,
Oh, yes. Always. That's weird you say that again. I just read The Obstacle is the Way on that book under you.
right?
Damn,
So
weird synchronicities all the
the
time,
book,
man.
what is the book under me?
Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
Okay, I don't have that
I
on.
mean, no, I mean, no. I mean, the phone as you
Oh, okay.
are sitting atop of a copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, the Gray's translation, and and he is, if nothing else, proof that at least one person on Earth was not corrupted in the slightest by power at all, and always held himself to account, was compassionate with others, but very strict with himself. Yes. And the fifth chapter of The Obstacle is the Way. Five of his kids died during the Antonine Plague, and every single one he considered a blessing, and he kept going. His best friend betrayed him. He kept going, and he never stopped doing the right thing. So, the man who said, "It is a fool who strives for posthumous fame," yet his book survived miraculously, and of all people, he deserves it. So I hope he gets it.
Yeah. So when we take everything in our stride and when we can see the benefit in all things, which is then going back to Jordan Peterson's favorite conversation Job had with God. It's all about God saying to Job, who the fuck are you to be questioning me, the creator of the cosmos? And Job's like, well, you've done this and you've done that, and I haven't done that and this and everything. And so why me? Well, why not you? Who says that you shouldn't? What fantasy are you living under that states that if you do all good things, then all good things are going to come to you? That's not how the cosmos works.
No, but if you were to take that literally, then Yahweh looks like an absolutely sadistic psychopath using the earth as a petri dish to
Well, he
fuck
looks
with people.
indifferent. He looks indifferent.
Well, I mean, who isn't it Job where he says to Satan, "Have a go at him"?
Yeah. Well,
That's
Satan and God have a conversation, and Satan
Mm.
says, "Your man down there, Job, he's a good
Yeah.
old boy. I can change that." And God went, "Well, you think you can change it? You change it." But he's my good old boy, and
Never lose faith.
for the vast majority of the book of Job, Satan's winning. But then in the end, the rationale of Job came around to say, well, exactly who the fuck am I? And
Yeah,
why should I matter? Why should God, have any? He created me. Isn't that enough?
yeah, and that is a very good point because I don't believe in we are God. We are fractals of Him, but there is a hierarchy. There must be a divine hierarchy in my mind, right? It
Yeah,
only makes sense. There's a hierarchy below. There's hierarchies within people. You can extrapolate that out to a hierarchy of in the Pareto distribution of the size of planets in approximation to other ones and lakes and rivers. It's everywhere, and like there's inequality exists. It's an immutable law of nature. And is that a good or a bad? No, it just exists. And so find your place.
well, I mean, it is good in that without the polar opposites, there wouldn't be anything. So of
Yeah,
course
yeah.
it's good.
It has to be good.
Everything has to
It
be
has to
good.
be contextualized. Yeah.
Anything that is in existence has to be good.
And it's pure in its essence because it just is,
And you
if
see,
you're to believe in God.
you have what are reputed to be great intellectuals, and I've listened to more than I care to remember about these so-called
Yeah.
intellectuals who have such a basic level of intelligence as far as I can see, because they will pose questions like, what sort of god is it that would create
Oh,
a wasp that lays its larvae in a living spider which eats it from inside? Well,
it's a
it's
pretty
from a
easy
creative god.
solution.
It's from a creative
Did you
god.
did
And
like
it
it's
serves
like
the wasp just because it doesn't serve the spider necessarily at that time. But you see, the point is, it doesn't
yeah.
eradicate spiders from the face of the earth, because the spider continues with its life until it is consumed. Um,
Mhm.
and
And
so,
it's just a lower life form of incarnation on a potentially lower evolved world. Who knows what's out there in the hundreds of billions of galaxies if that theory is to be, true,
yeah,
right? Who knows what's out there?
yeah.
Maybe there are planets where there are much higher evolved beings. We don't know that. I
But
mean,
when we look at anything, um, if we just come back to it is, then
mhm.
there's no problems. The only
No,
problem,
there isn't.
well, there is and there isn't.
I mean, there isn't. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, it depends. Like, if you're in a nihilistic state of mind or not. But if you're in just like that active role instead of reactive, and as things come into you, you don't react violently. You accept things as they come without attachment. You don't attach a negative or a positive to it. And the longer you maintain that and you exercise that muscle, the more life becomes more profound, things become more interconnected and beautiful, and everything becomes imbued with that numinous essence that you want to see.
When we stop putting so much emphasis on the I, because there is no I. When we
Yeah.
say, why me, and I shouldn't have this experience and I shouldn't have that because I'm a good person and I don't deserve.
Should statements, yeah,
When you
delusion.
are creating, endorsing your own fiction, that's when you are going to be bringing about God's chastising, because you don't have any
Oh
right.
yeah.
You have no right at all. You are an entity, a living form in this dimension, this globe, just the same as any other thing, be it, a creature, an ant,
Hmm.
or a flower, whatever. You have an existence and you have certain attributes which give rise to an experience of your existence. They are what they are, and that is it, period. And if you
That's
start
it.
picking and choosing from them, from
Yeah.
the constituents of your existence, that's when you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, and you start to foist what your idea of ideal reality should be upon everything else,
And
and
that's
then
when then
resentment
you
is born.
start to have issues with God, and then that
And then
is.
you start to hate existence itself, and then you're named Lenin, and then bad things happen.
Yeah, and so we have to be very careful. And I think ultimately, to be a philosopher and a spiritualist is most certainly the best camp to be in if we're looking for peace. Now, in Buddhism,
Yes, peace. Yes.
yeah, but the whole thing about Buddhism is that you go with the flow, and you don't gather up any ills. You don't have any attachment. You accept everything for what it is, and
And if you need to use violence to reduce suffering in the long run, you kill the child rapist. You don't have compassion for your enemy in that capacity. You prevent suffering by sending that motherfucker back to the wheel to consider what he did, and he'll come back. And maybe he'll learn. Maybe he won't.
yeah, what part
You
of
know.
Buddhism is that in? Because that isn't anything that I've considered to be
Oh, I
true.
mean, I'm not necessarily a Buddhist. I just mean like when people speak of what is moral and right within this type of like spiritual domain.
Yeah, but there is no moral. There is no moral unless
I
you
mean,
you want to punish yourself with morals.
No, no. What I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, for when you're in the highest seat of consciousness, especially like especially with me, with mushrooms, I find it impossible. I would have to try so hard to make an unethical decision because they set my priorities in the right place. I'm seated in the right. I don't think I could hurt somebody unnecessarily, even if I tried. And I think you can reach that through, what the Buddha did, or any great spiritual figure. And then from that higher perspective, you can make it, you with that human pattern recognition we are gifted with, you can decide, and maybe your judgment's good, to prevent future suffering down the line. Maybe something must be done now that is violent, but it prevents, right? And
Hmm.
you have to have the discernment and wisdom for that, and a track record. But that goes into who decides. It's, another paradox.
Yeah, and for my liking, it's too immersed into the fiction of the human being. And of course, it derives from ego, which is assessing which the false self, considers to be a better option, or more feasible. Well, if someone's going to be hurting me
No.
or going to be hurting somebody else, and then, look, at the
Oh,
end of
no,
the day,
no.
all these things. What I do is I just come back from it all because it's tedious. Every single
Oh,
thing
yeah.
about what it is to
I just mean
be
when
a
you're
human
forced,
being
like
is
like
tedious.
Arjuna, when Arjuna is questioning himself and God, Krishna, comes to
Yeah,
him
yeah,
to
exactly. And
shed
it's
the
just so
illusion.
fucking just go and do it because it has to be done.
It has to be done exactly. Action
You
without
are only
attachment to
doing
outcome.
what you are.
You
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 know,
say, I will become an agent of the highest. It will use me as its avatar, and the more I align with the highest, the better life becomes for me, for my family, and concentric circles around it.
yeah,
And it's unfortunate what must be done sometimes, but some man has to do it.
yeah. So in that context, I mean, Krishna is bringing to the attention of uh, Arjuna that, okay, look, we're all God, but at the end of the day, you're having a human experience. And, you as a human have to do what is right in your integrity of fulfilling that
Yeah.
position, because you cannot um, abdicate from being a human being unless you kill yourself. And so you
Yeah.
are king, you are being compromised, they are coming for you. And just because they're your family members, you've got to do the right thing.
They are adharmic now. They must be dispensed with before they hurt others.
Yeah. And so
You
therefore,
know,
lose the emotional attachment and
that's the whole
just
thing.
do
That's
your
what it's
job.
all about.
Yeah.
Right? It's about being an active rather than a reactive, overly emotional individual, and it's in Stoicism too. Do not let your emotions overly cloud your judgment, but don't dispense with them because that's inhuman. Because then we become materialists, and then we
Yeah.
just like treat everything like a machine, and like, oh, Granny's not useful anymore. Throw her ass off a cliff. That's not human. Humans
Yeah.
aren't inherently logical, and thank God.
Yeah. Now, for my situation, being so reclusive, uh,
Me too. Yeah,
yeah, that's how you are now. When we are like this, when we
I
lose
love it.
everyday contact with the minutiae of the human being, with all the tedious and heinous facets of what it is to be a human being, then we
Mm.
become detached from the human reality, and we become more and more and more in the abyss, and we become more philosophical, and less physical, you see. And so that's what I've done.
Yeah.
I've detached myself from the physical realm because I invariably don't have anything to do with it. I see my daughter and I see Paul, and that's all I'll see, and that's all I'll
Mr.
engage.
Nobody.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody. And the reason why he is Mr. Nobody is because uh, that's what he deems. He isn't a human being. He's consciousness having this experience, but ultimately he's nobody, and that's what
Fair enough. Yeah. I like
the
listening to you two talk, though. Is all.
yeah, it's unfortunate that he doesn't want to be on film anymore, because of course we communicate and quiz and analyze the universe in all the facets of psychology, spirituality, religion,
The
science, and
interesting
everything.
things in life,
Yeah,
that which makes life worth leading. I mean, philosophia, the love of wisdom, right?
yeah.
Like
But you see, from
it's
his perspective, if I record him, then there is something of him here. And he doesn't want anything to remain here when he's
that's
gone.
like some voodoo stuff, man. I like
Yeah,
it.
well, it's a bizarre notion, to be fair. He doesn't have any family. He doesn't have any siblings. His parents are both dead. And the
Put
only
my
friend,
military surplus shirt on. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
ugly as shit.
And so the only friend he has is me, and likewise, in the physical, so-called physical, and
I don't think I have friends now.
no,
No, and I don't care. People
yeah,
all around me like they think I'm a suicide risk. I'm like, no, I just don't care.
right,
I know it frightens you that there's people out there who are okay with being alone with their
yeah,
consciousness,
yeah,
and I'm sorry you need it cluttered up, but I
yeah,
don't. Thanks.
yeah, yeah. That's it. You see, that they need something to be a constant reminder that they are real, because they are terrified of being in the situation where
And the
we
fact
are.
that you exist and that you show them another alternative fucks them up.
Yeah,
And then so they come at you saying you're not okay. And then when your wall of impassivity is not being broken, they just break. And
yeah,
like their true intention is revealed, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it's fun to watch.
Oh, it's disturbing to watch. It's disappointing to watch.
I can't help it because it's people who've like harbored resentment over the years, and have been hypocritical in it, like my brother, for example. Like I've your stories about your brother is so goddamn funny. I rewatch them sometimes. Just I love how you present in a humorous
You
light.
rewatch them sometimes; they're all taken down.
I'm
And
sorry.
you rewatch them sometimes. You say,
Well, yeah, they all did get taken down, and I was like, oh, when I looked at my YouTube downloads, I'm like, oh, Aaron gone down, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I still have them, and it's possible that I could
Cook and blow.
put them back up again. Well, I'm going to be putting my channel up again. You
Yeah, you got
know,
shit to do though, man. You can't just be talking to Tardos all the
No,
time.
no,
You
no,
got
that's
to
right.
do.
And so I've got about a dozen videos that I've made here and there when I felt the calling. And there's mushroom videos, there's Providence videos, there's philosophy, and
You know, since you're into novel psychoactive chemicals, I've got some really good friends across the pond with the. You're very close to a very good distribution network of very novel, interesting things you might find very, very fascinating. Like
Mhm.
if since you're into DMT, the psilocin analogs that Shulgin developed are remarkable.
Right.
But and like there's this one in particular, 4-HOMIPT. Almost every single person who takes that one, that it's a psilocin analog, and it's cool because you can volumetrically dose and you know exactly what you're getting instead of leaving it up to chance with Mother Nature. Everybody feels like they're in a Gothic cathedral in a very expansive place. And it's really, really neat. And I think you might find that fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I would do. Maybe send those details to me so I can contact him.
Yeah, oh yeah. I wouldn't have you contact him, but I just have it sent your way.
Oh, okay.
It'd be, yeah, it would be much safer that way.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, where am I now in relation to psychedelics?
I've taken a long time off.
Yeah, the way I see the world now, yeah, my pet squirrel I see him every day.
Oh,
Um,
cool. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, I mean, have you seen any of the videos with him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I watched a lot of the whole thing, and I mean, not a lot. God, that's a stupid statement. I watched his whole process, his coming in, his hanging out with it, not leaving. It was cute.
yeah. So he's out there now, and he's got his house, and uh,
Yeah, great house too.
squirrels. They're kind of like insular creatures. The only time they're going to come together is when they mate. But there appears to be two
Sounds good.
which live in a dray together. And so I don't know whether they are partners or whether they're same sex or whatever, but I haven't worked that out. I've not done enough research to see how that works. But all the squirrels, the way they interact is insular. And the only time they come together, do a bit of chasing, is when they're becoming up to mating. And you should be mating season now. So I've seen chasing going on. But I go out and I observe the world and I listen to the birds and I watch them because I feed them every day and I see about a dozen or half a dozen squirrels going around and all
You're
different
just
sorts
a
of birds.
weirdo. Why aren't you watching television?
Yeah, exactly. And then when I look at something, I'm always intently looking at everything and it's like I'm looking at this leaf on one of my plants now and I turn it in a whole myriad of ways just to see what else it gives my retina. What else does it feed me? What else can I know? What can I feel?
Even
What
if
can I intuit?
yeah, if nothing else, just look for more evidence of the Fibonacci sequence. And when you did those last videos you did of walking through different neighborhoods and showing those trees, that blew my goddamn mind. I didn't realize that type of stuff existed over in England. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, of course, we've got all different sorts of trees from all over the world.
I It's amazing over there. I miss it so much. I still remember the second I drove over there from Wales into Somerset County. I got my ass out of that car and I kissed the green grass. I'm like, oh my God, I'm home. You know?
Right. Well, you see, the beauty is, where I live. I suppose England, in general, if you living out in the wilderness, effectively, you only have indigenous species, and mostly it's pine trees. I'm assuming. Um,
Western hemlock and Sitka spruce. Yeah.
yeah, and so how mundane. Here we have imports from all over the world which have been imported for hundreds of
Yeah.
years. And because, the Englishman's home is his castle, then in every English garden, there's trees. That I'm looking at a maple king, which has beautiful purple leaves, and then they go amazingly orange in the fall. There's a blue
Oh,
gum tree. There's a holly. Then there is a black poplar tree, and then there's fir trees, and there's all different sorts of stuff. And then when I go walking in these parks that I go, there's all different sorts of monkey trees and strange things that have been brought from all over the world. I think they call them orbitoras, which is like
we have some of those here too. It's just that we have we're in the largest boreal rainforest in the world, the Tongass National Rainforest. It's massive, so
right.
they don't screw with it. And so yeah, it's almost all evergreen. But we have alders. We have they look like your silver birch.
Yeah.
We have um in town. There's a lot of those foreign trees too. Just gotta be careful because like in Florida on my buddy's patch, we got Japanese trees taking over live oaks, and live oaks are my spirit animal because
Right.
I'm from Florida. I'm a redneck.
So we've got 13 varieties of oak in the UK. So
Hell yeah.
can you hold that guitar up? Because I seem to
Oh, I'm sorry.
remember that. Oh, it's an electric one. Yeah. Yeah, no.
Oh,
So
and I
what?
got a 12 string too.
A 12 string?
Yeah. One sec.
You've got a 12 string
I
because
have,
that's not 12 string. Yeah.
it's an acoustic. I got it because I remember I was talking. I don't know if it's gonna be tuned, but Alice in Chains is one of my favorite bands,
Right.
and it has a built-in tuner. This thing was only like $200 too. Sounds great. Oh, it's a little bit flat. Let me see if this will sound right. Haven't played it in a long time. No, it's a tune, but it's uncomfortable sitting here like this.
Well out of tune.
Yeah, it sounds like shit.
Yeah.
But mainly,
Yeah.
this is my main guy. And you can, with that, it's really cool now, the amp technology. If I had this when I was a teenager, I would have played a lot longer
Right.
and been pretty good. I've advanced pretty good for a guy in his 30s. But you can, and like from a phone and a Bluetooth, you can change from like a beautiful, clean ambient thing to like something really gnarly. It's neat.
Yeah, all the different sorts of options you got these days. I haven't played my guitars in a year and a half now. I'm getting on for 2 years. I've moved into a different direction, and now I think that I'm not going to have the time for that because it's not as productive as my writing will be. Because
For me, I have to do both
right,
because of my self-induced brain damage. And I feel like when I can read music, is it can do another language, and I write, things are waking up that have been dormant.
right,
Because 25 years I didn't write because of a bitch teacher who kind of almost beat it out of me. Like, because when I was 8 years old, I was reading the Jurassic Park books, and she
mhm,
was pissed off that this kid would finish his homework at his desk and write stories. And
right.
I was like, "Oh, I did the homework." So she kept giving me more. I'm like, "More, please." And my first vice was vandalism, so I'd vandalize her car, go to
Uh,
detention. Kept giving me homework. I'm like, "More homework, please." Hey, that stopped.
more homework equals more damage. You
This
work it
guy
out
is like,
what you
"I'm
want
just
to
going
do.
to do it real quick." But imagine being egoically challenged by an 8-year-old. For fuck's sake, I did what he asked me.
Yeah, yeah.
Sad.
Bizarre
But uh,
world.
but, but yeah, when you're devoted to that, I was like, when you wrote me that email, I'm like, God damn, that is some dedication that you decided to rework the entire thing. And I could see myself doing that though. And but not necessarily in a more productive direction, but like in the perfect being the enemy of the good direction.
Mm.
You
Well,
ever feel that impulse?
my personality is a little bit obsessive, pedantic,
Yeah, you
um,
kind of have to be.
attention to detail, and which are qualities that a writer has to have. Otherwise, you're going to write something which is shocking, which doesn't make sense, which
No.
you see, when
And
you're
the
writing, you write something down and you know what you're writing down. You have to be absolutely aware whether other people are going to be able to interpret what you're putting down. So what
exactly.
you have to do is you have to fill
I'm getting
in.
up for a sec, but I can hear you.
Yeah, what you've written down with brevity, you have to fill in an additional, bunch of words to explain categorically what you're saying, because these people that are going to be reading the book aren't mind readers. They're not tuned
Yeah.
into your vibration. So therefore, when you write, you have to ensure that you are explaining yourself in graphic detail. And of course, this becomes laborious because when you're speaking
Oh
about
yeah.
these subjects, they are immense, intense. They're never
And
ending. And
to transmute it in such a way is rough.
also multifaceted, see, because with my mind, I look at things like this and look at things like that and I look at things like this and look at things
And
like
they want
that.
a TikTok answer on a
If I
page.
was Jordan Peterson, then and he writes every single line apparently 50 times before he's happy. He's very pedantic, the same as me. But the thing is, what he's got on his side is that he's got something that he believes in. He believes in the biblical corpus. He believes in psychology. He believes in the human physical reality, where I don't believe
Yeah.
in any of that stuff. So therefore, I'm pulling from everywhere, and it becomes immensely complex. And until the end, I have to go, I can't include everything. I'm just and so
No, because then you'll never yeah,
no.
you'll never have anything out
Yeah,
there,
so
and you
what I
gotta put
do
it
in the
out.
book, I say I'm speaking metaphysically here, and then from another perspective, I'm speaking back as a human being who believes in a physical reality here. And people they're going to need some intellect and some depth of study before they're going to be following, enjoying, appreciating, and benefiting from my book.
Damn near have to, like, lash people. It's like pulling teeth to get them to read anything nowadays, you know?
Yeah. And the things about
It's
reading is simply this. there's levels. There's many levels to reading. If you are just going to pick up a book and you think you're going to read something like this in your lunch breaks or when the kids are running
Oh
around,
boy.
and it's only a small book, and you think like, it's 150 pages, and you think like, well, I can nail that in 2 days. If you nail this in 2 days, then you've put another nail in your own coffin, because you haven't considered anything in this book. Every single line and verse in things like this, you have to contemplate, and you have to absorb, and you have to philosophize, and you have to give life to, because if you don't, then there's no point in reading it.
It's just yeah. It's with me, since I do it twice annually. It's on my it's on a short list of books. I do tend to use my speed reading where I can take blocks and just know it, and it's just a refresher. But then there's a book over there, 3 books of occult philosophy by Agrippa. God damn, that is a challenge, man. That is like the end boss of books for me in my type of interest in the early medieval alchemical tradition. It is imposing, and the language is so dense and old. One day I will conquer it.
Books that I've got to get through are here's some of them. Reality by Ben Kingsley. I've read
That's
that
a
twice already, and when I first read it, it was the greatest book I've ever read, and this is reputed to be such a book. So
I'm gonna have to check that out
I'm
then.
going to read that one more time. I've got The Secret Doctrine, which I did read some time ago, 10 years ago maybe.
Is that a Manly P. Hall book?
No, Madame Blavatsky.
Oh yeah, Miss Theosophical Society. This
Yeah.
is sinister. Interesting.
Then there's Isis Unveiled, a twin volume,
Oh yeah. I'm aware of her work.
which I've read
Interesting.
one of those. Then stuff I'm into these days is Rupert Sheldrake's Morphic
Okay.
Resonance. Right,
Yeah,
Morphic
he's
Resonance
interesting
is
too.
absolutely fascinating, and I include that in the book. Then I've got Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning, which took him 15 years to write.
That's pretty. Yeah, I had a buddy. He tried to give me an original copy of Jung's Red Book. It was as
Right.
big as a goddamn coffee table itself. I
Mhm.
couldn't believe the attention to detail that went into that thing. I'm like, I
Yeah.
like you, man.
Then there's
I
the
can't take
second
that from you.
second volume of the Second Coming of Christ. I've read the first
Interesting.
volume. Got to get through. This was a fantastic read by Paramahansa Yogananda. Then I've got Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious
Oh,
by Jung.
have you read Myths, Dreams, and Reflections?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one always cracks me up. Hold on 1 second. I'll show you a couple things that got me going. Like it's like almost like a cipher to the alchemical tradition. Oh, here we go. The blue one. And shit, I'll just get a couple. But in terms of like books on yoga in the West, there's only a couple that are worth anything. There's one written by Mircea Eliade, which is this one. This is great.
Right.
By a Western guy. And there's
And
only
that's
one
on the
other
philosophy of yoga, of course.
traditionalist yoga, and he immersed
Not what
himself in it.
people
He was
think
Romanian.
is just an exercise.
No,
Yoga is
no, and just it's
philosophy.
not a soccer girl like stretchy time. See, Western women are like locusts, except instead of crops, they eat and shit out and destroy culture and tradition. So
Mhm.
keep them away from anything cool.
Mm.
And then, of course, the greatest spiritual text of all time, right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Read that
Then
one.
there's oh shit. The Hermetic tradition, Julius Evola. This guy, very interesting. Italian alpinist like Crowley. He was viewed as so powerful sorcerously by Benito Mussolini. He sent his thugs to kill him, but he escaped, which is pretty interesting because he thought he had magical power.
And got this one.
Oh yeah, yeah. And when you look at the language and you're like, this is not a recipe for lead into gold. This is something that will kill you. It's like phosgene gas or something. What are they talking about? Okay, so there's a series of these that I find they're half like shit, half very valuable. It's called just Introduction to Magic.
Right.
And it's by this Ur group, by that Julius Evola fellow who Mussolini thought was a sorcerer. And one writer in here, particularly Abraxas, are very profound yet pragmatic chapters that my friend and I found very useful. And there's 3 volumes, and the blue one is book 1. I think you might find that interesting. Some of it you'll think is fluff, and you'll be like, "Oh, enough of this." But then some of it you'll go, "Oh, interesting."
Hmm.
But The Mystery of the Grail is Evola's first book. I think should be an introductory because it shows you how the Grail mythos is pagan in origin, how Wolfgang von Eschenbach turned it Christian and essentially synthesized it like Tolkien did with The Lord of the Rings, and gave
Yeah.
England its mythology back.
Yeah. So all these things, I mean, they're absolutely fascinating. A book like this, which is 650 pages without the bibliography. Uh,
Hmm.
650 pages of something which needs contemplating on.
Oh God, yeah.
That's
This I
gonna
just have to pick it up.
it's gonna take some time to get through.
This Mitch. So this old honker, this is kind of what started the. It's
What's that called?
Oh my God. The 3 books of occult philosophy by.
Right. Okay.
It is. It's very big. Where's even the damn page number? Anyway, it's very large and dense, and like and it wasn't until I got through the introduction to Hermetics and the Grail, and then read Intro to Magic and started to get into more Hermetic texts that I could piece the language together, and then it finally clicked. But then what I realized is that they were just describing the esoteric path of another religion, it just so that didn't get burned to death,
Right.
by the church. It's just West yoga, just described differently.
Right. And so, because it's described differently, do you interpret it any easier or in a different way?
I would say it resonates more with me because I am of Western European descent.
Hmm.
Because certain things about the Eastern, even though if I were to say I was religious, I do think I am religious. Uh, it would be Orthodox Vedic belief. Because I mean, it's the most primordial. It's where things come from. It's where most other things come from, and I don't see any harm in it. I revere my ancestors. I do believe that there are gods and goddesses, higher ascended beings, and I almost know my daughter, man, that little kid, like no parental bias aside, that eldest kid, there's something about her. You know what I mean? Something like you have in you.
Right.
And that's been the most kind of heartbreaking thing.
So, so what is that? What is in her?
A
What?
fire, a spark in her that she sees things that are unseen already and tells me things that a grown up should know. And it's been mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to explain, but when I'm around her, magical things occur.
An old
And
soul.
yeah, in a very beautiful, brave, courageous one, noble.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yes. When we come upon people like that with charisma and aura and there's a magical feeling about them,
Yeah,
we go into a whole different level of cognizing what this experience is, and of course,
just see with the eyes of a child, man.
yeah, it becomes so metaphysical, so supernatural, and so all these books that I've got to get through now. revisiting. I mean, the Madame Blavatsky thing, I started on that like 15 years ago, her sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
I read one of these, and then I read The Secret Doctrine. And
I need to get to that one.
yeah, I mean, initially, where she's coming from, it's
Actually,
interesting.
no, I think I mentioned.
She's saying that all the information was given to her telepathically by certain dead people, people in another dimension that wanted her to transcribe something, and
That's convenient.
yeah, and so where she got this knowledge from, and she was the founder of the Theosophical Society.
Philosophical side.
So there was something to her, and everyone says there's something about this woman. There's, this.
Yeah.
Why is it that people, get blessed with these works? I don't know, but all I know is that this book that I'm writing has been in the making all my life. I'd known about it for the past 10 years, and it finally came to the point whereby I was going to write it, and even before I put my fingers on the computer, I was like, I don't know what I'm writing. I've got nowhere. I don't have a clue where to begin. But it's
That's
kind
what
of
I
like,
started with the
just
pen.
start writing, and
Just fucking do it.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you, we'll tell you, it will tell you what to do. And so it's kind of like,
Be
I
Bibble.
often start off chapters. I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be saying now, but then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And then I go back and I erase
Yeah.
those first few lines because they're no longer required. But what happened is that's an introduction
That's a good idea.
into getting me into the flow. Yeah.
I do that sometimes periodically just to start a thought and then just to get the engine running, and then dispense with the original, the tinder that set the fire going.
Yeah, because what it does
And
is, Julian, it dismisses your ego. It dismisses you as a reality. So you don't hold on to, what I'm writing, what my ego's writing. Will anybody
it's not
think
my
this
idea.
looks great? Yeah, it's got nothing to do with me.
I'm a conduit. We're
Conduit,
conduits.
that's
We're
right.
blessed to be conduits that can articulate these things.
So when we become conduits, then we are not speaking from the ego. We're speaking from
No.
a cosmic experience, and so that's what I'm hoping
Eternal
I'm
truth.
conveying in my book, and I hope that that's what
You
comes
are.
through. I suppose I must be. I
You
have
are
to be.
absolutely coming through. I can tell you, I've read a lot of shit. I've been a part of a ton of secret occult orders, all the assorted, stuff that goes along with that. Your book comes across as very genuine.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Relatable, and you're speaking from that place.
So how much of it did you get through then? Because you was up to chapter 4 or something last time.
And then I had it. That's when the work really started to break me,
Right.
like the 2-month drag.
Yeah.
But now I'm finally coming down. I want to read it like now.
Well, forget about that
So
because it's massively changed. And what I'm doing
Okay.
now is I'm going to publish it on Amazon because self-publishing is the way. All I have to do is send them the details, and then when
I'll
they
write
get
a
an
good
order,
review
then
and
they
buy
ship one off.
10.
Sorry,
Are you gonna have a paper copy?
of course.
Okay, I'll review it and I'll order the fucker 10 times and spread it around.
Well, it's going to be so far. That's how thick the book is. That's 400 pages,
Damn.
and probably it's going to be longer. I don't know. I'm hoping to wrap it up, but I
That's
don't
impressive, Aaron.
know. So for me, it's kind of like, well, of course, I had to have been capable of doing this. Being a conversationalist, being able to draw on so many things, which I've always been able to do. Even starting back from day one, I was an articulator. I was picking something from somewhere, and so
I was
yeah,
I was comfortable with public speaking when I was 8.
right.
It was weird.
And so, but the thing is, you see, because I have the propensity to take my channels down, or Google will take them down, I thought, well, the best thing is to do, instead of speaking to such a small audience, I will put it down in greater detail with far more explanation, and then it will be at people's leisure. And so then they can pick it up and read a few pages here and there. They can read it as many times as they want to. It's always going to be there. It's basically, it's going to be, kind of like my theory of everything so far, as far as my existence pertains.
Unfortunately, people like you who tell the truth and that some things people don't want to hear, you invariably become not particularly popular. Your channel should be a lot bigger. It should have been. I mean, you had a decently sized one. It should never have been taken down, but it
Yeah,
was. They notice, and it's threatening.
yeah,
Any of that must root it out.
not only that is it's people in general. You see, what happened is with people, they will watch somebody whilst they are in the honeymoon period. They're in a euphoria because what the person is saying. It may be interesting, but mostly it's reiterating what they think and what they want to hear. As long as
I
you
started it as like a pornographic thing for me watching you.
yeah, pornographic thing. So what people tend to do is they're waiting for a mirror reflection. They want me to tell them what they have accumulated or summoned up
They want
from.
you to articulate what they cannot. And
Yeah, that's right. But then you see, if I express or articulate something outside of the parameters of their acceptance, then they
yeah,
have this knee-jerk reaction, which is, "Oh, bin him. Oh, he doesn't fit me anymore." But you see,
oh yeah, exactly.
this is
Rather
why all
narcissistic,
the
huh?
years I've absolutely been adamant to offend as many people as possible, because the ones then that still stick around,
Yep.
I know those are the true seekers, because they are not
Yeah, you said a few
governed
things
by
along
their
the
ego.
way that I disagreed with, and I love it. I love verbal abuse. Like I've even typed it to you before. I'm like, yeah, throw that fucking shit on me. I don't get offended. I love it.
Yeah, we have to be challenged. We have to be cognitively
Yeah.
challenged. If we're not cognitively and emotionally challenged, we can't grow. And so,
No.
anyone now, you see, when I put up my next video, within let's say 2 weeks of me coming up in their feed, then I'll have like 200
Of
uh, uh,
yeah. And,
hardcore viewers, awake and brave viewers,
and the thing is, you're on the fringe of the fringe, and I've been kind of in this area all the time, and you know what we run into, right? We run into people who are very scared, not necessarily have their full physicality. Like you and I could scrap, right? We know we can kick someone's ass. That brings with it a certain level of certainty and our, our ability to assert ourselves and express ourselves. We have context. We're not just like basement dwelling occultists who just hide all the time and live with mother and stuff.
yeah.
And so you get those really odd comments, especially from some of the females. And I'm like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, and like, this doesn't even pertain to the video. Have you taken your medication today? And so I can see you like, I would get so frustrated. So you got a good amount of patience.
Well, I mean, of course, why I came away from the channel was because he wasn't serving me. Because it's kind of
Yeah,
like
like
I was saying, look, if I have own a restaurant and I'm serving up, a broad, varied cuisine, and I have customers, but I never get a single comment.
yeah.
Other than that, oh, that was all right. That was, mate. I want to know.
And I
Well,
did my best. Well, in that
yeah,
turbulent phase to
you
comment.
always did. Of course, I'm being unfair because there's quite a
Oh,
lot.
no, I know you weren't mentioning me, but
Uh,
yeah, they should at least comment. You're not asking for money. Just
Yeah,
fucking participate.
What's
What's wrong with you?
if you eat a meal and it was exquisite and it filled the spot, then just to give some feedback, and that's all I've ever wanted. But when people can't do that, I realise that the world
It's
is dying.
disrespectful.
The humanity is dying, Julian, and that's the thing.
And willingly so. They're giving up their agency for security.
Yeah.
And as much as people hate it around the world, we Americans don't like it, and we say fuck off for the most part. But even that is dying.
Well,
and it's sad.
Hang on. You say you Americans are non-complicit?
No. No, I say that the America is the greatest terrorist organization now the world's ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm speaking of the spirit of 1776 that makes the American different.
Right.
And even that is fading, and that's scary.
Oh yeah, I mean it's massively fading.
Because when I was over there, the country folk there, they're like, here, I felt at home.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
There's a video that Mr. Nobody sent me, and it's called
American Nations. That was the book.
How Our Brains Turned Fools Woke. How Our Brains Turned Fools Woke. And this is by Dr. Ian McGilchrist, who wrote 2 books. One of them I've got on my shelf. I've read The Master and His Emissary. And he's speaking about cognizant facility. And so there's lots of people now, you'll probably be aware if you're in these circles on YouTube or alternative platforms mostly, which are coming together. It's like the Weinstein brothers. It's like Peterson. It's like David Icke and Alex Jones, and of course they've always been.
David Icke.
But they're all talking
Alex
about
Jones is awesome. I like him.
I know. Let me just stop you on David Icke. David Icke, as far as I can see, is absolutely spot on with everything he's ever said. And even when he comes out in the old days with the Queen's a lizard and this, that, and the other, it's a metaphor because it's for the reptilian brain. But even if he was speaking literally, then when we have certain paranormal experiences and we see visions and we have encounters, we absolutely know that this is a metaphysical, supernatural environment. And so what he was saying wasn't wrong in itself.
No. I just disagree with this fundamental suggestion about the human and that they're not ritualistic creatures when every bit of evidence we have points to the contrary. We are ritualistic creatures.
Yeah, I don't know where he's ever said that. When's the last time you listened to
it?
It
was it's been a little while, but it was with regards to this type of lizard people type thing. I could find it and I'll send it your way.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that. But he knows where it's going, and so there's lots of people now that they're coming together. They're creating. Tucker Carlson, for instance. Tucker Carlson was a staunch physicalist, but even he now is saying that there's something supernatural about this fucking thing that is difficult to get his head around. Russell Brand.
I was on the fence about him, but I think he's legitimate.
Oh, he's legit. He's come round now, and then conversations between him and Russell Brand, one of our greatest intellects.
Oh God, Russell Brand, there it is, like trying to fuck him over. Like, yeah, that guy, what an evil piece of shit. Like,
yeah, then you got, of course,
pissed me off.
Joe Rogan and lots of his associates and colleagues and that. So there's a big movement, and so what's actually going to be happening now is I'm absolutely convinced, unless there is a shocking perversion of justice again, Trump will win.
He's going to win. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to win because the world's ready for him now because they've had 4 years of Biden and they know it's been the biggest mistake they've ever made, unless of course
they push too hard, too quickly.
Which you've got no rational thinking.
That's something I'm in the middle of that generation, so I was witness to all of it. As soon as my generation, right around my age, graduated college in 2012. That's when the accelerationism really kicked into gear. So I got to witness all of this. And I'm like, I've been a canary in the coal mine since I was 17. And I'm like, guys, it's happening. Oh, there's another one proven right, another one proven right, but they pushed too far. They thought with the George Floyd momentum that they were going to be able to get away with a lot more than they could. But now they realize that a lot of people are awake to the fact that they're trying to strip us of our humanity. And
Hmm.
so they're slowing it down to that more insidious, slow form.
Yeah.
And this is the time to capitalize, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and so all over the world, in many many countries now, we are seeing the light because of the COVID thing. In Australia, in
Yeah.
Canada, in particular, in Israel. Oh my God! Britain and America. All these countries. France was a classic. We seen the face of reality, and so
Yeah.
that shocked the vast majority of anybody that was borderline waking up. And now there's kind of like, let's just see what else there is. And all of a sudden, oh my God, they've gone down the rabbit hole. And so now there is going to be a very tumultuous human epoch
It's going to be chaotic as fuck this year. Yeah.
because the World Economic Forum and all those boys, which have invested billions and trillions into what they want to do, it's make or break now. If they can't force it over the world, which I don't think they will be able to, because look.
No.
It doesn't matter what they do. They can think that they've got the power
The
to
state needs
squirt,
us.
squirt everybody and force them to do this and do that. But the facts of it is, there's 8 billion of us, and we're not controllable on that measure.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that fucker. And
And
so
that's what you guys need too. We need to annex you guys because you guys are a lot like America, a lot more than you like to admit.
yeah,
90% of the way there. And then you need these. Okay, you need these sticks of freedom, and we need to give you the freedom seeds, and you can join us in our fight for freedom.
yeah. Well, we I think
That's
Britain.
where we came from.
Well,
That's the Holy Land to me, England.
yeah, but we've done it with our pen, and we'll do it with our pen. We'll do it with our consciousness, because at the end of the day, violence is very short lived, and if you do engage with violence, then that
Mm.
fuels what all that they've been saying, that guns need to be taken away, and people need to be constrained, and for our safety, for our safety, for our safety. The worst
No,
thing
yeah, yeah.
America could ever do is rise up in arms. It has to rise up in consciousness. That's what America has to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. We need a cultural renaissance. Essentially, we need to go back to our first principles, like what it meant. Because like people see the Second Amendment as this tiny little thing, but there are volumes upon volumes of paperwork, books backing up that concept. Even the Federalists were like, "Don't trust us," right?
Yeah,
We a monopoly on force. When does that ever end? Poorly.
good. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, I would. I love England. Like they're. I mean, we speak the language. God damn it!
Well, I mean,
It's
your seed derives from,
great.
at the very least,
Great book,
Europe.
Albion Seed.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, lots of things to talk about, as always. And so we're up to 2 hours now on this one. So we
That's
could
isn't
talk.
that crazy? How tangential we can get, and we can't.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
I
we
mean,
get a little bit. It's like the tree, the tributaries just keep going.
yeah, I have another conversation with an American
Okay,
guy from Carolina, and we uh, we engage for this amount of time, talking about so many different facets, and so
interesting, cool.
yeah. When
Because
I
I view you guys as brothers over there. I love y'all.
yeah,
I'm serious. When I met all those English country folk, and I played like with an 85-year-old man named Gavin, I played trivia night with him at the pub on Sunday night, and I thought that was one of the greatest nights of my life. And we won
right.
at that little pub near in Dartmoor.
Hmm.
It was the coolest shit ever, man. And I hope to see you soon over there one day.
Yeah, so for the last 15 minutes to wrap it up, is there any
Okay.
topic in particular that you want to sort of engage with? Is there anything that you've been meaning to talk to me about, throughout these months?
Um, that's really hard for me right now because as I told you, like the memory faculty had been hit so hard, and now it's been like this night shift type deal, and you all know all about a healthy rhythm of life. You're very good at that. And so everything's kind of been like 180'd. and I'm still kind of trying to regain my bearings. And especially in a place like this where it's like dark all the time.
Mm,
I haven't seen the sun in 2 months.
well, yeah.
So
If you're working nights, that's got to mess your circadian rhythm up. That's got to mess with your
yeah,
psychology.
but yet I'm stronger and better,
Really?
better than I've ever been.
Mm,
And I'm cool with it now. Like a year ago, this would have been a disaster. So I've made it.
right.
And now nothing to go but up,
Maybe
you know?
it's more of the solitude facet that's serving you,
I
away
love it, and
from
it never gets old.
too many complications and too many frustrations.
Yes, and that's what breaks my heart with Desiree is women are they don't see the whole picture. They can do the panoramic view and the multitasking with the domestic, but they don't get the idea. They don't understand the holistic approach to like, well, maybe we weren't our true selves here because of this environmental issue.
Yes.
Like our the everything. It's not just you cannot monomaniacally reduce a person to one path pathology, and in order to escape responsibility, which I didn't care. It's like whatever, and it's just sad the suffering we cause each other needlessly if somebody is unwilling to listen.
Yes, so the great difficulty is if people, even if they can listen, they can't quantify, they can't compute what it
They
is
just
being
hear.
said. Yeah, they are built with different stuff. I mean, of course, you know, women from Mars and women from Venus and men from Mars. You know, this sort of thing. Well, I mean, it may be generally quite true, but there are lots of women that are smart and can think more linearly and rationally, and there are some women philosophers, albeit you know it's not generally a propensity of women. But yeah,
And
there's
that's
so many
natural, yeah.
compromises, and the point is, you know, we are not genetically suited for monogamy and long term relationships because there's too many variables that come into place. And
Now
I
that'd be an interesting thing to get into because I used to be of that perspective.
Well, I've never met people more happy than those
Mm.
on the African continent, southern African continent, not South Africa per se, but southern of the equator, because the African disposition is not monogamous. It's free, it's casual, and so
Yeah,
they don't have any hang-ups about infidelities
but
and partners and deception
yeah,
and this, that, and the other.
but that comes from RK selection theory and the fact that they didn't have to place a lot of emphasis on close association to
Mm,
survive
yeah,
because there's abundance of food elsewhere. We were forged in the crucible of the ice age. That's where our innovative capacity comes from and
yeah.
why we have to remain close and fidelity is important, you
Yeah,
know?
I think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, going back to the collective unconscious, we're still bound by those constraints. We don't have any of
Yep.
the physical constraints
Constraints.
anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody can have their own home. Everybody can have their own job. Everybody can be completely independent, and women can be independent of men without fear of being attacked or anything like that, because of the
Surrogate
societies that we're in. So there's no reason
the
why we
surrogate
would be
father of the
monogamous
state.
anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. Just because of the surrogate father of the state, you know, they're allowed to do it with impunity. However, Desiree underestimated my ability, my cognitive faculties greatly because I was in a drunken stupor. Well, when I'm awake, I see it all. And she cannot fiscally do anything. I can
Mm,
make it all disappear in a button click.
right.
And so that's a good thing because it's like the Shiva Shakti thing. Reckless female power destroys. So, sorry, young lady, you made your choice.
Yeah, so you know, we'll live by our choices.
Yep.
But when we look at life and how we're living today, and all the constraints that we're under, and it's all premised on our longevity. It's so important that we live forever. You know, there's a little old lady
Oh
next to me.
yeah,
She's 88
cult
years
of
old.
youth.
She hasn't been out the apartment in 2 years because she's not able. She wants to die, but she can't. And so, I'm supposing that she's rubbing her hands together if she knew about it. That euthanasia is going to be coming to these isles pretty soon. Apparently, it's already in one of our islands.
That's horrible.
And so, well, it's a choice. I mean, if what's horrible is the incoherence and the impracticality of age when you can't do anything. Your mind may be still
I get that.
mentis, but you can't actually do anything. So why wouldn't you want to take your life? Why wouldn't you want to end it? It's over. 88 years old. It's done. You've done it.
But the problem is now that when you see its conclusion being drawn out in Canada and euthanasia is being suggested to people in their 50s because their healthcare system is overburdened.
Well,
and that's just
yeah, but you see, again, I go from the outside. I go from a perspective looking across the board, encompassing everything. I've seen interviews with these ill people who are 50 years old, and they're saying, "Oh, well, I want to kill myself because I can't afford to live on the pittance the government's giving me." And when you look at them, they're like, 40 kilos, and they've never actually tried to live their lives in their entirety.
You got to say stone for me, because I love it when you do.
when I what?
When you use stone as a measurement, I love that.
to stone? Oh, stones is a calculation. Yeah. So I think to myself, well, look, these people, they never had life in them. They only ever had existence within them. And that's the thing of the automaton. That's the thing of the drone. That's the thing of the husk.
Yep.
They're not spirited living things. And so they never knew what they was going to be losing by losing the faculties with the body. They let everything go so they could barely walk up the stairs. I've got no sympathy for these people.
I'm with you on that. It's just if it becomes something, especially if you're in a nationalized healthcare system and it becomes like a necessity, who's the arbiter? Who makes the choice of who's unfit? Who is that person?
If it becomes arbitrary, then of course we're in a dictatorship. But if people are given the choice now, and it's just
they should be allowed to do it. Yeah, I agree. I'm fully on board with you there. Yeah. It's not that I oppose it, but I guess I just oppose Canada, and I'd like to throw Trudeau into a wood chipper.
Well, yeah, the Canadian government is absolutely runaway rogue. But this euthanasia, this is going to spread over the world like wildfire because we're living too long and we don't have the quality of life. Not just for.
I think the AI thing is going to outpace it with everybody plugged into an AI girlfriend, sucking them off 24/7. We've not seen anything yet.
Yeah, and again, I'm an advocate for that. I don't believe in.
I think brothels should be a thing.
Here's the thing, this one you might find shocking. I don't believe in the physical relationship. I have no requirement for one.
I don't either.
As far as a physical sexual relationship goes, would be absolutely burdensome to me. It's like being served fucking fish and chips every single day for the rest of your life. Whereas if we have the freedom of technology these days, I can be having sex as many times a day as I like with whatever fantasy my mind can create in its wildest of dreams. Where's the wrong in that? Where's the wrong in that?
Well, I'll tell you where the wrong in that is, because then that becomes the experience you judge all following experiences afterwards with, and I know that because I've experienced it, and that strong of a dopamine hit over time. I have not released my manly essence since November, and magically my testosterone's in the 900s like all the time. I'm way more assertive at work. I've completely sublimated the impulse, and it's phenomenal. It's liberation.
Liberation, yeah, but what benefit does it give you other than the fact that you are abstaining, and so you think you've got control?
I don't care. It doesn't take up space in my mind for the stuff that you and I like to talk about.
Right.
Because if I were to date a woman right now, outside of a domestic context, where I think it is a good thing to have monogamous with children, the species has to go on. But a woman now, she wants to come see the shit I have in here, and imagine she makes it through that. What's she going to want to do? Watch television? Talk? Ugh. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, uh, as far as I'm concerned, if there was a woman in my life, then there would be all this silly texts and the unnecessary phone calls, and then
You're
they'd be like,
playing the
"Oh, do
game.
you want to meet for a coffee after work? I want to introduce you to so and so." He's go, "Oh, fucking hell! I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Why? Because this person wants you to, expects you to. Well, what am I getting from it? If I
The
just wanted."
tether.
If I wanted sex, then which basically from a woman, that's all I've ever been interested in, because I've never been, except on very rare occasions, stimulated by a woman's mind, and
Me
so
either. Ever.
yeah.
They don't say interesting things.
No, invariably they don't. But I have
Sometimes they don't.
obviously, I have had occasions. But
Desiree said some interesting shit at the start. That's why I kind of took an eye to her.
right, yeah. And so all these things. I can hold debates with any of these pro this and pro that, and I can show them, a very, very happy, stable minded, contented human being without any of their shit, without
Exactly.
none of it.
Their estimation means fuck all because I don't even care or know if they exist, right? Unless they're close to me. Like, I care what you think because I value and respect your opinion, right? And you've experienced things, you've written down things. I know you've seen things that I have seen too,
Yeah.
probably beyond. So yeah, I care about that. I wouldn't want to lose your respect, for example, because otherwise you'd be a shitty friend, for example. You know?
Yeah, if the respect's there, then the bond's gone. If the respect's not there, then the bond is gone.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's
and
how brothers are formed, brotherhoods of shared suffering and overcoming of obstacles and
yeah,
such,
but the
right?
point is that
Important.
these relationships, they are compartmentalized. You live on the other side of the world. We speak to each other whenever it's
Mhm.
mutually convenient, and as long as we want to do it, as long as we find it engaging, we're under no
Mhm.
constraints at all, and we're not about to
Mhm.
sign a contract which is going to be making us fucking wish that we'd never seen that fucking paper. It's just
Yeah,
a relationship that we can take or leave, and that is vastly different to a commitment that we're going to have in any other arena. And I'm just not about
exactly.
commitments. I'm not about commitments in any shape or form, because commitments aren't natural to the human being at the end of the day, because whenever they have been in place, forced upon us, i.e. in small communities and tribes, because I was a basket weaver and you was an arrow crafter. What do they call arrow crafters? Um, uh,
Oh, there's a name for it. A
the straight,
Fletcher.
a what? A Fletcher.
A Fletcher.
A Fletcher, yeah. If you was a Fletcher and I was a basket weaver, then I'd need your arrows and you'd need my fucking weaving, because I couldn't make arrows and you couldn't weave baskets. And you use the baskets to carry shit and to fish with and to trap
I
things
need
with.
to carry shit, damn it. Yeah, here's some
Yeah,
arrows.
but
Yeah.
all these things you see in small communities, we all needed the other characters' attributes and skills. Now we can get them from anybody because there's too many of us, so we don't need the community
Too
anymore.
autonomous. Yeah, we're too atomized. And
Yeah,
yeah, I do think the destruction of the male peer group has been of paramount importance for them because there's nothing more dangerous than a group of guys who are sick of it. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
how Rome started, after all, as a motherfucking gang.
But here's the thing, you see. I mean, when anybody ever says anything about the new the World Economic Forum or the New World Order or what they're doing, they're pacifying men and they're making us all weak and pathetic and everything like that. I'm old enough to know that when I started going out into bars, 18, 19, 20, up to 25, every single night without fail, invariably, if I wasn't careful, I would get into a fight, because there's too many fucking idiots with testosterone and too much beer and too angry with what life had given them, and they just wanted to smash
Oh, yep.
everybody's face in. Now people think twice because they'll go to jail for fucking years
Man,
if they do
I
that.
just had about a year ago, I was down in Ketchikan with my brother at the shipyard. Some guy called me a faggot because I dress nice.
Yeah,
And I quickly showed him how I wasn't, and I whipped the fuck out of him. But the problem is, If you hit a guy, you give him a good jaw check, and he lands on the concrete, you go, "Oh fuck, is that 20 to
Anything
life?"
like that, and even if you don't, then you'll end up in trouble, as you and I are both well aware, simply
Well, up here you
because.
don't, unfortunately, thankfully.
Sorry.
Up here you can pretty much scrap and get away with
Well,
it.
there, well, you kind of like
Unless you
in
can crack your
Rednecksville.
head on the cement, though.
Yeah, you're in
That's when.
Rednecksville, and so you got maybe one county sheriff, and he's too fat
Oh,
and
it's
fucking, you know. Um,
not. It's weird. It's kind of weird. It's like half hippie, half rednecksville. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I would say is, from growing up when I did do, to now, there is a constraint which society benefit from, and
Hmm.
whether that's reduction in the testosterone of men, well, men should have put it to a better fucking use in the first place.
We fucked up.
I used to go to gyms, Julian, and in the gym, two guys would be talking to each other. They'd be pumping it up on a Friday night, and then one would say to the other, "I'm going to go out tonight, get fucking pissed, and smash some fucker's face in." Why? Because he works at a dead end, deadbeat job. He's a dead end fucking loser. He
And he's
couldn't
on
get a woman
trend.
if he fucking tried. Too many angry people out there who just resulted to that sort of thing. Now the
I had a
world is
buddy die on
expanding to that.
trend.
And
Trenbolone.
also, I've got people, I've had people close to me who are not emotionally strong, and they don't stand for criticism, bullying, and this, that, and the other. And so, to the lowest denomination, all of these things that the New World Order is imposing are beneficial. They're not
Oh yeah.
beneficial to people like you and I. If someone calls us faggot, then we can go bang, have it. For a faggot, I punch like a fucking mule, yeah. But at the end of the day, there's no
It
future in
doesn't
that.
serve us. No, it does.
There's no-
It's satisfying, and it's nice. I like fighting. I
Right,
like training for violence. But I like reading. 'Cause as a kid, I internalized warrior, scholar, artist. Tried to do all three,
right.
and I just can't help it. I wrestled. I did hand egg. And I don't regret it. But at the same time, who does that serve? It
Yeah.
serves no one. And instead, you know, something better could have been done, and we could direct that towards, you know.
Yeah. And so, well, maybe in another conversation, we can talk about, the let's just say the desires of the new world order, where they're taking us, what they want to do. They want to
And the
introduce us all
ramifications
to
of and
Elon
the
Musk
implications
brain
of,
chips.
yeah.
They want to pacify us. They want to take all the rights away and all this sort of stuff. So we can go down there, and then we can see if there's anything which is beneficial out of that as well.
I think there's just as one preface is that in recent days, I have definitely learned people are so afraid of autonomy and being responsible for themselves, they will trip over each other to lick a boot for safety.
Yeah.
And that's just something I'm not about. But yeah, that'd be a good conversation because you're culturally different
Yeah.
enough to where that could make it spicy and interesting.
Yeah. Okay then, mate. So I'm gonna
I'll write that down even.
yeah, I'm gonna make
Yeah,
my
and
way
it's
to
been
the
really nice talking to you, man. And I'm glad I really was happy to see you get out of there.
yeah. Well,
I
I
was
mean,
worried.
I've got a great book in here which is going to be coming out of all that experience, and it's going to
I
be
can't wait.
phenomenal. It's going to be psychological. It's going to be spiritual. It's emotional.
I've not read
It's
a book because
intellectual.
of that.
It's going to be powerful, man. And so
I
this book
I'm
now,
primed because I haven't read a book. I've just been regenerating my faculties and thinking. So I'm
yeah.
ready for your book. That's going to be my first book I'm going to read.
So this book that's now going to be coming out very soon, Closer to God, it's philosophical, spiritual, psychological, metaphysical, scientific.
All the important things.
It's all those sort of things, all the big subjects, and so there's something in there for everybody. It's going to be controversial. I'm
Yeah.
going to be arguing where people are not going to be able to refute what I'm saying, because all I'm saying has come out of my personal subjective experience, and it's all true to me. You see, it
Having
doesn't matter.
unassailable arguments is very fun.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether Jehovah exists, whether Allah exists. To me, neither of them exist. You know,
No.
that I've had a relationship with, something called Jehovah, which I attribute to an egregore, and I write about those. But
I do believe those are 100 fucking percent true,
there's a
and
subject
I've
there.
experienced building.
Okay,
Yeah, there's
there's a
another thing
subject.
to
We'll
talk
start
about.
on egregores next time you got some time. Then, yeah.
Man, yeah, and there's different names for each. Yeah, that okay. So cool. I'm
Tulpa,
gonna make notes. I'm sorry.
tulpas, tulpas. Another word for egregore.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and just how a general building, if inhabited by an order of sorts for enough time,
Yeah.
like I've been to Crowley's house.
Right.
It's there's stuff there. There's stuff so much beyond our perception. And I noticed in the past year, there are signals. I do get it. There are higher entities here, and if you align yourself with what they're telling you, and your eyes are open, your life gets better. Period.
Well, or worse, depending on what egregore you're involved with.
Yeah, and I
Now,
fucked it up.
I've got a chapter in my book which is on egregores and everything, so it all fits in very beautifully. Now, incidentally, where was Crowley's house? Because he lived in Britain, didn't he?
Scotland.
In Scotland, right?
Yeah. I forgot exactly where because we went up past the Peak District and it started to get actually snowy, and I'm like, shit, that sucks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we did go there in the winter.
And then you felt
Um,
on Aura.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
There's buildings like that. There's certain Southern Victorian houses like that.
Yeah.
There's
So,
yeah, there's yeah.
egregores are a thing, and I've experienced egregore of Jesus, egregore of Jehovah, some sort of egregore of hell, evil, angels.
Hell's in Norse
Egregores.
mythology too, by the way.
Sorry.
Hell is Loki's daughter in Norse mythology, and she
Right.
rules over the realm of the dead with one L.
Right.
Very interesting
Yes,
because
indeed.
Loki is Odin's shadow.
Yeah. All right
Very
then.
interesting
So
stuff.
we'll wrap up now then, Julian. It's been great to
Yeah,
talk.
man.
Great to see you again and see that you seem to be getting on fine. And next time you've got the inclination, then drop us a mail and we'll do it again.
You tell me whenever I've got more time now and
Yeah.
I can plot things out. I'm out of that 2 month grind tunnel.
Okay. Well, let's leave it like 3 weeks. That's keep us fresh, and then come back and do it again. Yeah.
You seem to have the same attitude I do. I like that.
Well, there you go.
All right, bud.
See you
It
soon,
really
mate.
was great talking to you, Aaron.
Yeah. You too. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Bye now.